All right. So, this is a little bit of a different recording for you guys. Unfortunately, we don't have um video on this anymore because we are trying out the Discord stage, which our members and as well as public audience can listen to us through Discord while we're doing this live. And I have David down as our guest there for our topic for today, which is going to be machine guns, or deep dive into the machine gun platform. This is Poi, your host. I got Mac here. Say hi, Mac.
Hello.
And we got Tack here.
Hello, everyone.
And this is the Panther Airsoft Folding Table Talk. This is episode, oh gosh, what are we now? 51? I think we've hit the beyond the middle age crisis, and we're not even senior at this point. But uh, we're pretty high up the numbers here. One more number, and then we're a full year actually. So, congrats, guys.
Age crisis. I
Yeah,
like how you I like how you frame that there.
I mean it's hot. It's summertime. I'm hot and bothered. All right. Before we get started, let me just get my sip rep here. Unlike Cristiano Ronaldo, which has, he likes water, I will take Coca-Cola here. I don't know if you get the reference there, but
I don't know. That's a losing stock, my friend.
all right. I think we should get started here. Who wants to go first? Shall we start with field news or airsoft news? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first here. So we'll start off with some airsoft. So
all right,
for
all right, Mac, hit him with the intro.
Airsoft news.
Okay, Mac. All right.
Okay, okay, all right. Five out of 10. Okay. All right. So on to airsoft news, guys. So I don't know if you any of you guys were paying attention. It was a little hard to catch just for us up here in Canada, but some of us here on the podcast were able to see the Milsom West documentary, or um, short, I
Vice
guess.
news. Yep.
Yeah. It's a short little 20, or was it 40-minute, 30-minute?
20, 23, 21, 22 minutes, somewhere around there.
Yeah. It's like half an hour, like an episode kind of thing. Of their, I think, TV series called Deep Dive. Or Deep End, I believe it is. And so they just well, I don't know how else to put it, but they were reporting on Milsom West at a Milsom West event. I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know about you guys, but I know it was hard for some of our Canadian guys to catch it just because of the region lock. But if some of you had a VPN, or if some of you guys were able to check out the link that Poi had provided, you are able to watch that. Give
Yeah.
us your opinion on it as well.
Yeah, link in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. Yeah, it'll be below the description of the YouTube page.
Yeah, we'll be going over about the snippet just a little bit later on in the podcast here. But moving on, we have again Milsom West news. So for some of you guys who might not know, another Milsom West event is happening. I believe it's Milsom West Jump to Barda, happening October 22nd to the 24th at the George Air Force Base.
Yep.
In Victorville, California.
Victorville.
Yeah, I really wanted to go to this one. This is that infamous one, I believe, that people see on YouTube quite often. A lot of people have been able to sort of make their takes on that AO specifically. So for anyone who's able to go, definitely check it out. Get your
This
ticket
is
early.
October 22nd to 24th.
At the moment, we have no news on if the border situation is going to be changing. So unfortunately for some of us, unless we have some awesome excuse of going down there, it is out of the question. But I just thought I'd mention it to you guys just because it is nice to know that they're still doing events.
Perfect.
Other than that, guys, I don't really have much for airsoft news at this moment. Aries did do a little snippet of they did tease their gearbox this time, but they did a little video of it. Unfortunately, the video doesn't have any audio, so it doesn't really showcase much because you don't really see anything moving. So unless I actually hear something, I don't think you can really give a good judgment on it. It just looks like just a rectangle with a trigger on it at the. So other than that, I'll throw it over to Mac for field news.
Airsoft news.
Airsoft. That was Tack. Thank you, Tack, with the Airsoft news. All right. Just trying to make sure. Yeah, you guys can hear me all right?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Perfect. Well, yeah, rolling into this weekend, guys. Unfortunately, some of you guys may have seen our post. If not, please share the word. To this weekend, guys, Saturday, June 19th, we are closed for all airsoft activities. Unfortunately, sorry, guys. There's more days to come. We will be open on the 20th, the next day, Sunday. I believe it's Father's Day. Yes, it is Father's Day. And basically, guys, yeah, bring your dads out, shoot them, or let them shoot you, one of those things. But yeah, sorry guys for the blip in services, but that is what it is. The film schedules are demanding, and they are the ones that keep us alive, guys. Other than that, right now, just a heads up too, early heads up, guys. ASG is hosting another night game, so that will be next weekend, not this coming weekend. The 26th, I believe, Saturday.
Yep.
There will be another night CQB running from, I believe they kind of start around, gathering together around 5-6ish. Yeah, right when Panther closes. And then officially and everything, guys, they run from about 7 till 11, which is pretty cool. Come check it out if you guys want to try, a different style of airsoft and everything. It is different. There is a different set of rules and requirements. One being you do need a flashlight, one that emits white light and one that emits red light, so you can kind of signal that you're dead. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, check out the Airsoft Strike group or ASG Facebook page. They got a lot more information there. And then I did post a link in the chat, I believe. So yeah, check that out, guys. Other than that, it's hot. Make sure you guys are staying hydrated when you're out there and everything. It's going to be a nice weekend. And guys, again, I know it sounds like a broken record, but COVID, we're almost there, guys. We're almost at there. We're entering stage 2 and everything like that. But please, guys, be mindful of our guidelines. Keep your distance and, keep wearing your mask if you're feeling uncomfortable and everything like that. And try and keep your distance from anyone who's not in your household. Wash your hands regularly. Obviously, guys, that's the thing that's saving us. And other than that, everyone be safe. That's field news.
All right, perfect. Okay, so let's jump into sorry, before I get started, I guess there is no C21 news. There is a bunch of shenanigans happening in the parliament right now in terms of they're trying to sneak in a bunch of
And that one's sneaky.
Yeah.
They're sneaky as hell.
They're doing their job being sneaky, guys.
Yeah, but we're not jumping into politics. That is not our job. We are just here to figure out if airsoft is banned or not. And right now, no news for C21, so we are good to go. So let's get right into the topic here. Before I do that, we're going to introduce our really favorite guest of all time. I don't know how many times we brought him in, but we have Schoolboy, aka David, or also, other way around, David, also known as Schoolboy. Let me bring him up here. I am new here, so hold on. 1 second. Invite audience. I can't drag him. Okay, I guess. Move to nope, not move to. Invite and nope. How do I
option right here, boy? I clicked on him and I have invite to speak.
Oh yes, that's it.
There we go. Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
There we go. All right, perfect. Sorry about that, David. How's it going, my
no
man?
problem. Good.
So we have Schoolboy here. We've had you do these segments so many times. It's like you're like our favorite guest for some reason. Your skills are unmatched. Your knowledge is unmatched. You also talk a lot. So welcome back, Schoolboy.
Oh,
How's it
thank you.
going, man?
It's good. It's good to be back. It's a wonderful warm day here in Vancouver, and the weather's just lovely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we are gonna be diving deep into machine gun platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get
Bread and butter.
started, I already know that it is your favorite platform. Any reason why it's your favorite platform, or one of your favorite platforms, or what is it about it that you like the most?
Simple. They're usually heavy and they suck to carry around. But when you get to engagement time, it's a little bit more fun to put a lot of fire down. And it's a platform that gives you a lot of opportunity to sort of manipulate the gameplay too, especially in your favor for certain team elements. And if employed correctly, you can actually overcome a lot of different situations. So it's a force multiplier, and I like that. And it's about how you run it more or less.
Okay, okay. For the rest of us here, Pack, what is it about machine guns that is like attractive to you?
Um, well, pretty much the same things that Schoolboy's going on about. Just the force multiplier factor of it. I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure about the younger generation nowadays, but for like guys like me and guys just a little bit older than me and whatnot, we grew up watching some of the Rambo flicks and stuff like that, and that really kind of image sort of stays in your mind. And so when you see like an LMG or an MMG, you just kind of want to hold that pose. Then just
Oh
be
yeah.
like, ah, yeah, that's my kind of sort of pulling point to the platform um, initially, but from like other perspectives, it's an easy platform to work on. Um, they're robust enough that I feel like they're kind of hard to break because it's more designed to be as a like steadfast platform versus you running around. So I find, at least from my experience, you're less likely to sort of run your barrel into the ground and kind of break it, stuff like that. Like your typical weekend airsofter.
All right,
But
and what about you,
yeah.
Mac?
Well, yeah, like I definitely agree with everyone's standpoint on it, and it's definitely fun to be able to fire off full auto and have I mean, I know I know people can, find ways to do it with like the real steel variants and stuff like that. Speaking if you go down to like the states and, find the right places to do it legally. I'm not talking about the other ones. And if your occupation involves it as well, as David can definitely share with the testament. But other than that, like obviously, I come from the same household as Takumi. I grew up watching the same movies. So I definitely have a love and a respect for a fully automatic weapon, the squad weapons and stuff like that. Like especially how they're used and everything like that. So I've got a respect and I do have a base knowledge on how they should be applied. I do disagree with a lot of people when it comes to airsoft and LMGs and stuff and such, just because I work at an airsoft field. I help ref airsoft games, and the amount of kind of problems and such that I can run into with people that do run LMGs, it kind of really causes a headache to the point where I kind of just like, and this is speaking from personal, like I do own LMGs and I do use them, but I do reserve them for more of like the kind of like Milsim experience and stuff like that, where they can kind of be used, in a semi proper way. But yeah, other than that, that's my standpoint on that.
All right, and for me, coming from video game Milsim background, I just like as a GPMG or LMG. We'll go over the definitions. The crew serve weapon systems or squads. I like the dynamic of it, of including it in like a platoon element or a squad element when it comes to like LMG versions of it, or squad automatic weapon. It's
Mm.
just it's just fun to use. It is correct what you guys are saying. It is a force multiplier because you're taking something that is that the
Superiority,
squad
right?
generally doesn't have, and basically prioritizing your squad into working with the force multiplier and keeping that alive, and then applying that to airsoft, right? If especially if it's in a Milsim background, we'll go over the Milsim stuff, and they only use mid caps or low caps at that point, and then you have an LMG who can spurt out a lot more ammunition and sustain, heavy amounts of cover fire for you while your guys move up, then the use of it is even greater, and it becomes a tool and an asset that is great to have. So yeah, I agree with all of you. And of course, I have to agree with you guys too. Film really depicts the machine gun as like this ultra cool. Like if you're talking about Rambo, which we all grew up with, 90s kids.
Yep.
Movie came out in the 80s. Fucking beautiful movie. It's great. Um,
It
Rambo
was
with
right
the
there on VHS, man.
yeah, Rambo with an M60 or not? Sorry. Yeah, Rambo with an M60, just going at it. Even though depiction of machine guns in movies is not really correct because you're taking something that's like either a DShK or like a PKM and just like holding it up like it was nothing on your hip and you're accurately
Yeah,
firing.
yeah, like no.
Don't forget about
Yeah.
Commando.
Yeah, oh yeah, Commando. I forgot about that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, the glamour of the, back then the M60, and then in today's generation, Generation Kill or all these other Gulf War movies, the M249 and then the 240 Bravos. There's
Oh
there's
yeah.
something about them that's majestic. The beauty of it. There's something about an M4 that is it's the standard NATO weapon. It looks good. There's the AK, and then all of a sudden you whip out like the PKMs, the RPKs, the M40 and the 249s, and then you're like, wow, okay, I want that for airsoft. It's just one of those things that people are gonna be like, yeah, I want that as my first gun. We'll go over that, but let's just go over. I'll go through a little bit of history here, history lesson and definitions with me, and then I'll let you suffer through this a little bit because I just want to get the definitions correct before we start rolling in here because this so
We are
sometimes
painting a picture in your mind, everyone, so you understand exactly what
yeah
we're referencing. Because
yeah
we're gonna start throwing around like
there is a lot
Terms.
of there's a lot of
Yeah.
words and terms for just MG
acronyms.
alone.
What's a bipod? Tell me. They won't tell me what a bipod
All right,
is.
so here we go. Suffer with me here, guys. Hopefully it's not too long. If it is, just let me know. All right, here we go. So, machine guns. They're basically fast firing guns, faster than your regular, assault rifle.
Fully automatic one.
Yeah, fully automatic ones. Um, the name implies that usually it's usually heavier than your regular like submachine gun or assault rifles. It fires larger caliber ammunitions and usually belt fed. Well, sometimes in box. We'll go through the different definitions here as we go along. Um, they're mainly designed to be heavy, clunky, but with superior firepower with larger calibers. And we'll just go through the different definitions here in the history of as we go along here. So let's start off with the heavy machine gun. The name implies that it is not man portable. Usually you need like a crew of 3 or 4 to
Yeah,
operate it.
you would think it's not man portable, but they find ways.
And
Hey, I
and
don't
that,
wanna
that's
hear
why that's why we
anything
start
weird.
off. That's why we start off at heavy machine gun because then we start going into the different categories as they become
Yeah.
lighter, and its purposes become even like the classifications become even like smaller and smaller, and then they basically like
Well, you go down to the rifleman.
yeah, and then
Mhm.
yeah. So we'll start off with the heavy machine gun. Trench warfare, World War I, seen the rise of like heavy machine guns. They're basically on wheels. They're heavy. They're like 50 pounds or above. They're usually heavier. Plus the
Way more.
ammunition. It usually runs with it usually runs as a crew serve weapon or CSW is what we call them. Its
Mhm.
main purpose is to provide heavy sustained fire at long periods of time in a designated like area. So you really want to fortify your machine guns because it is a heavy asset, and something like in World War I, like a Vickers or a Maxim machine guns, or a M19 Browning, like you're really limited to what you're doing with it, other than placing it in a fixed position, putting what we call a tripod on it, and then you have arcs and angles that you gotta cover with the machine gun. They're designated as like either anti-aircraft roles or anti-material roles at that point. Later in the 20th century, um, because of what they are later throughout the years. But back then, that's what they were in World War One, and then some parts of World War Two. That's what they were designed for. It's just basically laying a lot of heavy fire at a long period of time with long belts of ammunition, continuous fire. The reason they were so heavy back then is because they were using really water cooled systems to cool them down, or heavier barrel systems to make sure that you don't overheat. So that's why heavy machine guns are our heaviest class. Examples of heavy machine guns are basically like the Maxim, the Vickers, the M1917 Browning, the M2 Browning, which is what we're used to, which is basically the M2 Modus, or the 50 cal is what we call it. And then the DShK. DShK? I don't know how to
DShK.
pronounce it.
The good old DShK.
You got it.
DShK, which is basically a 12.7.
Yeah, 12.7 millimeter.
Yeah,
it's
and
anti-material.
and we're not including 20 millimeter here, because that becomes like a freaking auto cannon, and that's like it's either on a platform like a vehicle or a ship, or a tank, even Bushmaster or something like that. At that point, there's no human left when you shoot them, because
you're not seeing that at an airsoft game.
No. I mean, it would look
Didn't
cool.
we actually?
Yeah.
One can dream.
Yeah, keep dreaming. Goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, unless you put a Nerf dart at the end of it, that'll be hilarious.
Yeah.
And then
What
it's
do
a
you mean?
continuous belt.
We can't get airsoft anti-fragmentation BB rounds to fly down? I mean, somebody could come up with a 20 millimeter Bushmaster system, and just 3 airsoft.
So as we move,
broken back before anything else.
But generally, you know what
Airsoft
heavy machine gun teams is. HMG is heavy machine gun, and as the name implies, it's a crew serve weapon. It's not meant to be handled by one person. I mean, as we move down the list here, we will. So as we move down the list here, they find out that machine guns are actually a great asset, a great tool. Can we make it lighter? Can we make it portable? Can we move it around? Can we move it with an element? Right? As warfare changes in World War II, the key was mobility. So the designation of MMG, or medium machine guns, came into light. Machine guns like the M19A4, which is basically the BAR, I believe. Let me just double check here.
The BAR is close to machine gun, but it was an automatic rifle that was employed, so it had similar capacities. The ones that really pioneered
it's
the Germans.
M19 is basically the 30 cal version of
that's the 1919.
Yeah. So there's that. There's a Soviet SG-43. So those are basically their take on making the machine gun, or the heavy machine gun, more mobile, because they find that if you move with an element, you can basically cover an element moving forward, rather than in the defensive purpose where it's the reverse direction, where the enemy comes towards you, right? The tactics change, because they don't, no one wants to do a suicide run anymore at that point, which is basically running to a line or a trench, and then a machine gun just mows you down. So the basic role of the HMG is still the same thing, sustained firepower, but they're giving up a little bit of sustainment capability in exchange for a little bit more mobility. So they have a little bit more shorter belts. They're not running water-cooled systems anymore. They're more running air-cooled systems with... they don't have changeable barrels yet. We'll move that up to the next level, which is basically light machine gun. But in this case, you're running with 2 to 3 people with the a smaller crew serve. You have your guy that's wearing or carrying the tripod. You got the guy that's carrying the belts of ammunition, and typically you want to fire this on a tripod anyway as you move up with the team. But later on, they started adding bipods. Then we start evolving into the light machine gun, or the LMG, which further sustains, fire and mobility for the group.
Poi, not to interrupt you, Poi. You're glossy. You haven't glossed over the medium machine gun.
Oh, that's what we're talking about, the MMG.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought you said the LMG.
No, LMG is the next
Okay.
level to this. But
Sweet.
this is the medium machine gun. So, like I said, once the bipods were introduced, then we start moving to LMG. But the MMG is still a crew serve weapon, but it's lighter, more portable. People can move it around. Like I said, the Browning 1919, which is basically very popular in World War II because in the Pacific Theater they could take it out, they could dismantle it, move to a new position that a assault element has moved up to, set it up, and then have the assault element move up again. And then if they get screwed over by, a banzai charge or something like that, or some sort of ambush, then they could just fall back to the machine gun again and and get that sustained fire from that machine gun, defeat the enemy, and then push forward again, and then displace the machine gun, and then place the machine gun at a new position. So, World War II, the key was mobility, and you get tactics like the Blitzkrieg tactics, which will then increase your mobility, and then you lose your static defense positions at that point. So it was a change of overall combat at that point. So examples of MMG, like I said, are 1919s, Soviet SG-43, the Lewis gun in World War One was a good example of basically miniaturizing the heavy machine gun. The Hotchkiss 1909, and the MMG, the FN Mag, or the M24, the M240 Bravo is what it is today now of a compilation of like a medium machine gun. Like the M240 can be mounted on a vehicle. It could be placed on a static defense. It could be moved with a unit that is like a tripod unit. And and it has bipods too. So it's kind of an evolution to a light machine gun at that point, but it changes overall. So we're talking about adding bipods now. So now we're introducing the light machine gun. It's much lighter than the medium machine gun. It can be operated by a single infantryman without needing an assistant. Usually they have ammo bearers that are with them. Because you're removing the tripod, now you have a bipod. A bipod means that it's got two legs in front of it. And by firing from a prone position or on a ledge, and you're using the bipods, you could then have much more sustained fire with a LMG. LMGs, yeah.
Good to go.
Oh. LMG fires a larger caliber, large caliber rifle. Still, it can be typically fired from a box magazine. It could also be fired from a belt too. LMGs were designed more for being fired on a shoulder, right, or on a bipod, while still sustaining that. Still sustaining that heavy fire in a short amount of time. So they're more likely to be with a unit that is moving forward, and then if they hit an ambush or anything like that, you could then employ the light machine gun to then cover a position that the fire is coming from, and then a team can then flank around, in different directions to defeat the enemy. Light machine guns were basically quickly replaced by the general purpose machine gun, or GPMG, or the SAW, the squad automatic weapon. And it was more like LMG and automatic rifleman roles were basically like a small part of this sort of category history. Examples of LMGs are like the BAR, M1918 Bren, Hotchkiss 1922, and then the FN Mini-Me, which is basically in the US it's called the SAW. So it has like a really short history because you're trying to make a machine gun even smaller and smaller and smaller, but it's just the name implies that it's still a machine gun. So later on, as things progress, away from World War II, and they learned that, from the German side, the development of like their machine guns and how they use it in their tactics was so effective that they named a role for it, which is basically using a machine like a GPM MG, or general purpose machine gun. It covers what a HMG, MMG, and LMG classifies, and it could be vehicle mounted, it could be crew served with the tripod, it could be used with a single individual utilizing the tripod. The role basically covers a lot of things that all we were just discussing, and this is what it is today now, which is why we call a lot of the machine guns like a GPMG. So keeping in line with what heavy machine guns, medium machine guns, and light machine guns do, they fire a heavy caliber. They are belt fed usually. They could be box smagged as well, and it could be used on vehicles. It could be used on tripods for static defenses, and then it could be used in an assaulting team when they have time to set up. It could be used without a crew served purpose, a single person using it. So examples of this would be like the MG34 and the MG42. In World War II, they're so effective. German crews or German squads basically consist of 10 people, and that would be 5 riflemen, or 1 squad leader, 5 riflemen, 1 SMG guy, and then 3 MG unit. 3 MG guys, but 3 MG. 1 MG
Pairs?
with basically three people in it. So 1 carries the tripod, 1 carries the what do you call it? The machine gun, and then the other one carries the ammo. And then and the barrels too. So you're getting to a point where they basically build around the machine gun unit because of the fact that it was so effective at flushing out the enemy at one area that they could just have their regular machine gun shoot at an area, force the enemy to go one direction, and then boom, you got your riflemen firing at them out in the open, and you've just basically flushed them out. So the general purpose machine gun is basically like all of that combined together and maximizing your effectiveness of machine guns. Later on, you get things like the MG3, the M60, the FN Mag, which is basically the M240 Bravo. For the Russian side, PKM. And then you got your MK48, and then the newly designed MG3s or MG5s as well. So these are basically all the categories that we just discussed above into one category now. And they're very effective. Like modern militaries will have some sort of a GPMG tactics that consist of one of these machine guns. Now we move down to squad automatic weapons. Now this is more in lines with sticking with your like standard fire team. There's more a modernized version now of what squads are that incorporate basically like squad automatic weapons. Someone who has so basically what they found is like, okay, let's take all of this definitions and we'll make it lighter. We'll make the caliber the same as the rest of the squad. So you're using 5.56, which is the same ammunition that the other soldiers are using, so that you can mix and match ammo with no problems. Because if you're using a GPMG, you're still using a high caliber ammunition, and logistics wise, it's not like it's hard for you to get ammunition because it's different from your squad. So with the squad automatic weapon, you're basically taking ammunition that's the same throughout the rest of the squad. So if you ever run out, you could basically just share ammo with the rest of your team or grab it from them. And the method still applies. You're still providing sustained fire for a short burst of time, and also providing the user with mobility. So the most popular gun for this category is basically the M249 SAW, basically designed for this role. The saw basically can run off of a belt box, and then something along the lines of using a Stanag magazine to punch it into the one of the side what do you call it, the slots on it. You see a
The
lot.
it's
Yeah,
the
the emergency one. Yeah.
magwell. Yeah. Yeah, if you're running it off a magazine, you're in some deep shit.
Yeah. that thing like is a beast when it comes to eating up your ammo.
You have to remember though, you have to give credit where credit is due, and I know the M249 has become the popular option.
Yep.
But people cannot forget that the Russians, with their RPK, technically had a much more effective and much earlier on the line for
Machine
having
guns, yeah, exactly.
for having an effective squad automatic weapon.
Yeah, but the RPK is not technically a machine gun. It's technically an automatic rifle.
Yep. So
by
that's
definition.
By definition, it should be, but that's why a squad automatic weapon would be more appropriate for it because of the fact that it's still using the same ammunition as your regular shoulder, right? You're either using 5.45, I believe, for the Russian types. Yeah. So the definition is you're still using the same caliber as the rest of your unit. So
well, exactly. Well, actually no.
So,
I believe the RPK actually used the AK round.
You had the
and there was the RPK. No, the RPD without used.
The RP. Hold on. The RPD is different because the RPD is technically a machine gun because it feeds from a belt. The RPKs and things like that. In airsoft, you can classify as a machine gun, but in the real world, it's an automatic rifle.
Yeah.
They don't actually use drums very often because drums jam like crazy. So they'll use standard mags, but it's usually
the longer mags.
Basically, and it's usually an AK that has a heavier barrel too and a little bit longer, so it's a little bit more accurate for sustained fire. The Americans did the same thing with the M27 with the Marine Corps, which is bringing back the old philosophy, what the BAR was too.
Yeah. So they're
but in respect to just like what we're talking about when it comes to the squad automatic weapon, right? Like the whole role of the RPK fills the fact that it functions exactly like an AK-47. So therefore, just like we were saying earlier, and what Poi was mentioning. It being effective within a squad because you can literally just throw your ammo at the guy and he can still keep going in the fight, right? Same with the M249 in respect to having. Now we all know it's a gimmick, right? But the the mag.
You squeeze that trigger, you better not let go.
Well, yeah, exactly, or else you'll have a jam on the 30-round mag. But so just I wanted to give where credit's due on that perspective there.
Yeah. So this again, all of these roles keep changing depending on what the warfare is and depending on the technology that comes up. But this is where we're at now. Again, it's also evolving yet again. What you're mentioning with the M27 IAR provides sustained fire.
Yeah. What's old is new, right?
But with more accuracy in mind. Yeah, they're bringing back the old AR, automatic rifleman, basically, but in a mindset of more accuracy rather than pouring lead in an area, which is,
it's fun because they're bridging the whole idea with the automatic rifleman is to bridge the gap between a true machine gunner or even a light machine gun. Down to a rifleman level, but having something in between where you have something for sustained fire, mind you, not long bursts, but like short bursts, but very accurate too.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
when
so
the time was. I mean, you have to understand too is that the Americans following the M27 path obviously shows that the Russians and their RPK sort of design was, kind of very future thought out in a sense, because like the Americans are going backwards, not slamming on them, because what they essentially tried to do was make a machine gun platform as small as possible, and they were very successful at it. But there comes a time when you need to, like your guys are saying, right, evolve and change.
If you want to get technical, I mean, the Americans did invent the M60. I mean, that is very portable, 7.62. And
Yeah, the,
Yeah.
that
they had
and
a bad.
guess what? The FN Mag or the M240 was like a way better system back then. It jammed less, and it's still being
That
used today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
the
turned
other
into was it a political issue or something like that, where like they just wanted to flex and something about them making their own, even though they denied all the all the analytics and the stats that proved that their gun was crap.
Well, I mean, it's every country's a little different with employment of automatic weapon systems. But the thing is, the automatic rifleman and machine gun role have been around in every country in a different sort of setup since the beginning of machine guns back in World War One.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a nuanced area where we're always kind of floating around. So that even the idea that the automatic rifleman will replace the machine gun is kind of silly in its essence. It's a stopgap to kind of fill the role in between the two niches, but you'll still have machine guns because they're I hate to say it like this, but they're technically superior in terms of volume of fire.
It is.
When you come under fire from one, it's like kicking a hornet's nest. It is not enjoyable,
Yeah.
regardless of what you like to say.
Regardless, yeah. I mean, the Germans proved it properly that a proper
Yeah.
GPMG crew or a squad can really like add
Yeah.
effect to the battlefield, especially when you got something that's buzzing over your head and you're like, crap, I gotta get down, and then you got an element moving with it. Then it's
Well, precisely.
it's
yeah.
a fear factor at that point. You're like, well, fuck, I'm out of here. I'm running because A, they're firing really fast, accurately as well, and B, they got units that are
Mhm.
moving with them, like, and just trying to flush them out of whatever they're hiding, right? So GPMG, squad automatic weapon, or light support weapon, whatever you want to call it, whatever the Brits want to call it. That's well, they tried to coin that term, but it didn't work.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Oh,
Excuse me, sir. Bring up the light support.
hello, Elliot. So
you've evoked
Oh,
the,
he's finally
the
joined
British
us.
bad.
I have invoked the British.
Yeah, you said, yeah, I heard British, and I'm like, what? I'm like, I've been hiding in here since you were talking about HMGs.
Yeah, no, I noticed. Okay, so that's a little bit of a history, and as well as definition terms in here. We started off at heavy machine gun, then we worked our way up to, medium machine gun, light machine gun, which didn't really last that long, then got converted into GPMG, which is basically the standardization of MG's role around the world. You got your squad automatic weapon, and then we're basically rolling back to automatic rifleman at this point, with the introduction of the M27 and as well as like L86A2 RPKs, and then who knows what we're moving on to next at this point, because it just keeps changing, revolving,
Mhm.
and that's the way it goes. So,
Okay,
What-
I have a question then.
yeah, go ahead.
What do you guys think will be the determining factor for the next generation of MGs?
I think
Uh,
I kind of agree with the AR, which is basically accuracy versus volume of fire, because
no,
No.
no,
that's not going to be around because machine
What?
guns in the newer generation have become highly accurate and lighter, and you're seeing
Exactly.
more enhanced rounds specifically set up for machine gunnery. If you want to look at some of the newer stuff that
Yeah.
the Americans are pushing out with Sig Sauer,
Yeah.
it's pretty spooky because you got a
Exactly.
3.3 Lapua flying down at a belt-fed weapon that can hit you at up to 2 kilometers, and that's firing over the bore sight. That's not even using a tripod and using plunging fire. It's spooky.
And then
Uh,
on top of that, they can change caliber on the fly if they
Precisely.
run out of that. And then
well, they
General
they are
Dynamics
moving to
created
the
their
newer
own.
generation 6.5 millimeter rounds as
Yeah.
well for NATO, so that is going to be a deciding factor for new weapons design. I think the new what is it, the Negev or something like that?
Yeah, the Negev,
saying,
the Negev
proprietary
in
rounds?
Israel's been around for a while.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
You're saying proprietary rounds. You're changing the millimeter.
Uh,
You
6.5 is going to be the standard rounds coming up soon, I believe.
Yeah, they
I'm
are.
just-
They did a
not able
huge
to have the
overhaul.
game.
Sorry.
Well, we shall see.
Like P90 made proprietary rounds a long time ago. They were ahead of the game.
Well,
I was
no,
like, yo,
we're talking
Many did.
about NATO adopting rounds. Then the rest of the pack will have to take into
Everyone's
that.
got to follow
we
America,
have to
apparently.
we have to see what they decide on, because then again, replacing rounds is a very difficult thing to do, because you need to retool all the factories that produce ammunition, essentially, and depending on what type of ammunition you'd be producing, and it comes down to the casing more than it comes down to the bullet itself. The bullet is easy, but the casing and how you're going to package it, as well as put in your powder, or whether you're going to use brass or switch over to polymer, or what SIG is doing. Yeah, or what SIG is doing is a combination of a steel base with a brass top. So what happens is you can have a harder explosion without the bore exploding. And I mean, not getting into the nuanced semantics of it all, but the process of adopting a new caliber is a huge pain in the ass.
Yep.
And we also have swaths of standardized NATO ammunition. So unless we burn through it all or have a good reason to switch over at any point, it'll be hard pressed to adopt. I mean, the Russians aren't adopting anything new. Besides, they've had the 545 now, and they have so much stockpile, there just isn't any reason to.
Yeah, David makes a good point, right? Like, and of course this is a weird one, but think about the American civilian population. How many of them shoot guns on a regular, right? You change everyone's ammunition, like all
from
these
223, exactly.
These factories are no longer as profitable.
But I think on this point we should probably dive into the airsoft side of things, because I think we're getting caught up in the nuance.
Yeah,
of,
because I don't want to jump into
machine
ammunition
Yeah.
at this point, because that is more of a forgotten weapons sort of topic.
That is very separate from us.
Yeah,
That's a different Jesus topic.
Well, we have one standardized caliber.
One standardized round. It's
So
the same for all platforms.
So unfortunately, you guys are right. Airsoft only comes with, what is it? We're only in 2 flavors, honestly, but the most common is the 6mm
We're in
BB.
3 now. There's 4.5. They made plastic 4.5
Really?
mil. There's 6 mil. And then for high caliber, there's 8 mil.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but we don't see any of that. So we just standardize at 6 mil, and we just use weights.
Let's not forget Novridge is
What's up,
6.49.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's not standard,
Well,
though.
boy.
That's specialized at that
What
point.
the fuck? You need to buy a proprietary system to shoot this out of the gun that you already bought from. Okay.
Well, you need a conversion kit, okay?
Yeah, that gun you spent $1,000 on. You need to spend another $1,000 to try out my new and improved product.
More money.
So yeah.
Enough of that.
You guys are right. 6mm is like 99% of airsoft, basically, with different weight classifications. So that's what we're stuck with. Unfortunately, we can't really go over the classifications of HMG, MMG, LMG, GPMG, and SAW. Basically, we're only classifying it for the looks and weight at that point for airsoft.
Mm-hmm.
We could still factor in
application of the platform, as well as how the platform functions, because obviously airsoft in airsoft terms, right, they're going to perform differently compared to the rifle replica platform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and or a
Shall
lot of
we?
yeah. Let's break it down for airsoft, basically. First, let's get one thing out of the way. What is Panther's stance on machine guns in terms of ruling? I know there is a ruling that we could, because they're stuck at full auto sometimes. What is the ruling on it? If someone can answer that.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is the fun one, because this is the age-old problem. Is I tried to make it change to something more easy, but people wouldn't do it. The exception, of course, one of them is Schoolboy here. He actually followed the new regulation, but no one would match him on it. But yeah, the rule is no buildings, like no CQB with LMGs, like that stuff. Like there's no full auto with buildings involved. Now we were working on a system of either prone position or bipod mounted in a window. If you had a blue colored tip on the end of your gun, so a ref could identify your equipment a lot far enough away that they're not someone just breaking the rules. It's a designated LMG to kind of restrict who's using full auto in buildings in a defensive position, much like LMGs would be used for. So they are the rules. Whether or not people followed them, very few people actually did.
You heard it here.
You hear it there.
Yep.
So you're basically classifying it as someone who has a blue tip means that they are classified as a machine gun role. Then they're allowed to do full auto on a building, right?
Yeah, the
It's
rule
not
was
blue tip. You had to be like you had to be acknowledged as one of those blue chip holders. Like you had to go through the process of we check your gun, make sure the steps are there. It's not just if you bring a blue tip, you're good. Like we want to make sure that you're assigned as an LMG player.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you also specifically made it that people that brought in LMGs had to have an actual light machine gun. It couldn't just be an M4 slapped in with a box mag and then call it an MG. It needed to be something designated where it feeds. And I respect the rule because I like it too, because the idea essentially is you have to haul around something that you're not exactly going to enjoy. And it's honestly, I think the rule is a good rule. It's just there's very few people that actually want to employ them for obvious reasons.
I think it puts it puts the emphasis on you're hauling that shit and it's heavy. You basically are essential to the team because you're providing sustained heavy fire to the other side.
Yeah, you're also a juicy target.
Oh,
so
yeah.
There's that too.
Yeah, you're walking slower because of that thing. So imagine you walking around with an M240 or an M60 and you're like, oh man, this is heavy.
Oh, dude, I'd be hauling ass with that. There's no way I'm walking. I'm running. Still do.
It's not fun, I'll tell you that.
So a lot of people, we were just talking about how, movies and as well as like Hollywood really like just like makes machine guns so beautiful in a movie scene, and how people, especially my brother Pat, who went into airsoft going, man, I want a machine gun.
249.
Yeah. So what would you suggest for newbies? First of all, I would for my suggestion, I'm gonna say get an M4 first. Honestly.
Okay, just for reference before we move on to that.
Yeah.
The whole reason that people are seeing these LMGs they can all play with, a big part of it is those LMGs they're seeing on TV for the big screen or the silver screen. They're airsoft guns. They're actually accessible for the average person.
Yeah.
Very true.
Like major shows, like say like Van Helsing when it was running, or Wu Assassins, all airsoft guns. So when people are seeing these gun toting shows, or say even Supernatural, for example, Supernatural used real sword for their guns. So I know what guns they use. So I'm like, okay, well, you're really pushing airsoft, and I'm all for it. I'm all for TV pushing airsoft for us. But that's why it becomes easy for people to buy an LMG, is because they're like, okay, well, I saw that exact gun in this TV show, and here's the online website to buy it.
Also, to note, like 80s movies and 90s movie stuff, a lot of them were blank fire, so you don't have the actual recoil of the gun.
True.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Blank fire ammunition is also significantly lighter.
Yep.
Not speaking from any experience.
Yeah.
So what is a recommendation for newbies that are trying to get into it for you guys? Like for me, no. I've seen my brother's pain and I don't want people to go through it, but if they really want to, then by all means, I'm not your mom, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll err on the side of similar to Alphonse, in the sense of if you want to get into LMGs, you gotta give it a wide berth, in the sense of like really think it over, because you need to dedicate to it. It's one of those platforms that's going to kind of rock the boat, not only on the wallet side of things, but physical. Especially if you're not a strapping dude who can, haul around a lot of weight. Like a little, like the airsoft gun, the airsoft variants are extraordinarily light compared to the real ones, mind you. But at the same time, for the average player, carrying around 15 pounds is not very easy. So just be mindful, and with that, like, buy a sling. Just get a sling for yourself. Like, just do yourself the favor and help yourself out there.
There you go. Mac, this is probably your favorite topic, which is basically people need to work on their what if they're gonna get into this.
Oh, dude, I was waiting for that. I was actually waiting for that.
Hey guys, yeah, just gotta go work on your fitness. No, guys, definitely. Well, that's the thing that kind of like is lacking when it comes to people's kind of thought towards these kinds of things, and especially what Schoolboy just commented on too, is that these aren't real. So they are not, like, as close as they are looking. Like, it's not real weight. You're not carrying real ammunition. Like, your gear is not weighing you down nearly as much as like a real soldier would be too. So like, it's so different for people to kind of imagine themselves like running around like Rambo firing from the hip. And it does make me sad when I when I see people who are brand new and they buy something and then, you know, unfortunately it gets to the point where like I see them not even use it, you know, and that's where it kind of makes me sad on that too, because it's like I do know those mistakes. I've made those mistakes myself, and it comes down to the fact that it's like, okay, well, at the end of the day, as long as you're having fun, that's what matters to me. And I always have such a headache with LMGs or just, you know, machine guns, just because of and you know, the problem of like not having like a standardization across the field for it. And exactly like Elliot said, like we tried implementing things. Maybe we'll try again later, but for now, I love them and I hate them.
And for TAC, what do you say for newbies that are trying to get into the MG game?
So blanket wise, general term, no, it's not a platform I would suggest for a newbie to really get into.
Are you talking tech wise, or are we talking just like in general use?
in general, just like if I'm gonna be talking to a first time player and stuff like that, and they're coming up to me, it's the same thing that I would say to someone coming up to me after watching a Navi video. And no hit to Alphonse, because this is where a lot of them come from, where kids see an Alphonse video and they come up to me and that's what they want, right? Like just like Alphonse, like what Schoolboy was mentioning, right? Is you really got to dedicate to the platform, and you got to really appreciate and respect him for, you know,
just look at
taking that
Alphonse. He's
role
a
and playing that
beast.
character. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah,
right?
his
And
thighs can
so,
kill me already.
Okay, well, no, this
So,
is the thing
like-
people don't understand too. Okay, that guy is an ex like NCAA football player. Okay, like this guy like is what
He's
he was
thick.
set up.
peak
He was
airsoft,
set
peak
up.
airsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and so yeah, in the factor of newbie, it's definitely not a platform I would suggest from someone off the beginning, just because there can be too many problems associated with the platform in itself to make it fun for someone. Like you know, as many problems as there are with certain M4 platforms that, you know, most of you guys will see on a weekend basis all the time, they're quite fixable, right? Yes, the LMG platform problems are fixable and whatnot, but like it's just easier to deal with on a M4 platform. So yeah, just on that basis alone, it's not something that I would suggest as a first newbie gun.
Okay. So yeah, we got the newbies out of the way there. Yeah, recommendations, start with an M4, guys. We have beginner guys that you could follow up with. If you're gonna get into
Or an
MGs.
Don't forget the AK guys.
Oh yeah,
You're
AK,
allowed to
AK
play
too. Yeah,
AK.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
speaking of newbies, right? And moving on from that though, are LMGs worth it, right? Would you guys buy an LMG or an MMG platform? Schoolboy,
Yes.
start with you.
Yes.
So, okay, so I'm pretty biased on this one, and that's already a yes. But I mean, I'll go into the nuance of it a little bit later on when we get to it, I guess. But really, it's about the application. Everything in airsoft has a purpose if you can see it and you apply it correctly. And then if you fine tune those skills, what you get out of it is pretty impressive. And then it can give you options, so to speak. And I mean, I won't go too much deeper, but is it worth it? Fuck yeah. Pardon my language.
Okay, yeah, all right. Poi, is it worth it for you to purchase an LMG?
Yes. Not right away. Maybe a later purchase. They are expensive, honestly. As far as upgrades go and stuff like that, we'll get into the tech talk of it later. But as far as like upgrades go, I would just leave it stock, honestly, until it breaks,
Okay.
because there is a lot
You
of
are not
problems.
wrong.
There's a lot of problems with it,
Okay.
but as a platform itself, knowing what it's used for and what you're using it for, and you know your designation in the group or at Panther, even if you use it properly, you're gonna have fun with it because of the fact that airsoft is a team sport, right?
Okay.
You're using a weapon that is designed to be supported by other members of your team, right?
Okay.
If you're not using it properly, right, you're just going out there. I mean, it is airsoft. You shouldn't take it seriously, but if you take it seriously with a team, practice with it with a team, and yeah, use it as a force multiplier.
Okay. So, Mac, what about you? Is buying an LMG worth it? Like,
once
where would you buy an LMG?
Okay. From my current standpoint in airsoft and my the way I play, I have LMGs. We have LMGs. Thank you for asking, Tack. Our LMGs. We do have LMGs, but I would never use them in a drop-in game. I never. I never will again, and I won't. They specifically come out when I go to Milsim events or big game events because, again, yes, everything that you guys are saying is true. They are a force multiplier. It is quite advantageous to be able to throw multiple volumes of fire down the range and maneuver around and such. But again, yeah, that's my feeling on it, and that I don't need to say anymore. That's just what it is. In drop-in games, guys, you'll never hear me vouch for it. Dave, I love you, and I look at your guns, and I ignore you when you play. But other than that, that is what it is.
Okay. So with that then, where would you guys buy an Ellen? Like,
An airsoft store.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But
thank you, guys. Goodbye.
yeah. Poi, if you were to be looking for LMG or an MMG platform right now, where would be some of the websites or
It's
places that you would go?
actually in the Canadian market, it's actually very rare because there isn't a lot of options to begin with. Some of them have been sitting in stock for a while, and yeah, it's unfortunate because we don't really have. Yeah, you have to search around. Airsoft DB would be my first place to go. Honestly, I'm not sponsoring them, but you gather all the stores that are in Canada into one search engine and then look for the platform that you want. Again, if you guys want to, if you're listening to this video, you could go back to the history and definitions that I put out, and a lot of the more modern ones in the GPMG and as well as the SAW era examples that I've provided you. They're going to be available. If you're looking for something unique like a Vickers or an M1919 or BAR, there is a BAR, but all these other really rare guns, it's just going to be hard.
Just do a group buy. And they get 3 dudes, and then you just run that system. You get one guy carries tripod, buddy carries MG, other dude's ammo dude. You just work on setting that shit up fast.
Hands down, there
coming
is
from a family of brothers, I will tell you right now that does not work.
Hands down. What is it? I think Aces. I believe Aces and Eights had a working M2 platform, HPA.
Yeah.
With a tripod and a shield and ammunition. So they had 3 guys doing this. That is a proper crew serve weapon.
Tripod.
Yeah,
they had like a wheeled. They had a wheeled version of it too, so they could roll it around.
That is a proper crew serve weapon, and in a milsim environment, that is nice to see, right?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, as far as stores go, Airsoft DB, or even go down to States if you could afford the shipping and as well, because they have more options down there than us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So then, Matt, what about you? Where would be your first place to look for a LMG or MMG?
The Mac and Tac store.
No, I have enough. Well, if I were to suggest anyone to go somewhere, I would definitely tell them to check locally because there can be some hidden gems around when it comes to the stores that are around here. I do know that they got some stuff sitting in the back sometimes, or they might bring in something new and it might get bought up. But again, it's always good to check those places. As for going outside and everything like that, it kind of comes down to like make, model, and company for me too. So if I'm like looking, like for me again, the ones that I've got is Tac. What do we got? We've got 2 249s, and we've converted one into a C9, and then we're working on converting the other one again. And then what else?
I think that's it. I think that's 2 LMGs.
Would we get rid of the other? I thought we had one more. That's what we've got right now, and kind of be interested in getting another one. I guess the only one that I really would be interested in is either picking up kind of like the op4 variant. So I'm either going to get an RPK or a PKM or something, but I'm not too well versed on like makers for those, so I know I would have to try and probably get some reviews done first and just kind of like scope around and look, because again, those aren't very popular, and I'd like to change that. We can go there.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mac. Schoolboy. Where if you were to buy another one, I know you have many already, but if you
He's got
were
like
to
4
buy
or
another
5.
one, where would be some of the first places you would look? I guess let's start with just locally.
Well, I just did buy another one. So I bought an RPD from
Ooh,
Trigger Airsoft.
ooh.
Yeah.
So good,
I've
I
been
know.
I've been humming and hawing on between that one and a 240, but I couldn't find a 240. So I kind of just said, you know what? I'll go check it out. I went and I touched it and I was like, yeah, I'm kind of sold on this, and I picked it up.
Feels
It's
right.
not half bad. It feels right, and it fills another machine gun role, which I don't know why I keep buying them, but they're awesome. And now I got another machine gun. So yeah, you can surf around on the internet. So I've sourced mine in the past from players that either are getting out of airsoft or just don't want to use machine guns and sell them off. There are plenty out there in the sense of if you know where to look. Andy's Airsoft does carry some right now, and I think B2 has some stuff right now. They just got a whole bunch of LCT in, so you can find them from some of the airsoft shops. But even when we had more stock in general in Canada, like machine guns are kind of they're kind of niche. So you don't really have a lot of options in airsoft. You're kind of stuck with either light machine guns or medium machine guns. There are very, very few heavy machine guns just because the cost and just the weight. A lot of people get intimidated by it immediately when they pick one up and they're like, "Oh my god!" They're like, I'm not hauling this around." But
Right.
yeah, you can find them if you know where to look.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Okay.
like surf the web. That's the best way to do it.
Okay. I myself would definitely go the same route as you. If I can't find anything locally, I would definitely
Yeah.
reach out to Andy from Andy's Airsoft back east, just because um he's very good at getting things for people, especially the niche things. So I
Hmm.
really applaud him on his effort on that. Um, moving on. Um, let's be honest here, guys. Are they worth their price point? Um, from your guys' opinion, obviously, we've already kind of discussed it, that they do have a pretty high entry barrier when it comes to a purchase. They definitely do not fall in any of our budget categories or
No,
previous
by far
videos
not.
that we've sort of done on Airsoft. I don't think you're able to get the LMG as well as fulfill like getting your eye protection and whatnot, all within the budgets that we have
Oh,
projected, other than the baller
um,
budget.
you might be able to now because of the new series. I don't remember what company it is. It's not Raven, but it's another one of those companies that makes like affordable economy lines. They just released a featherweight series of LMGs.
Okay, so that's the well, I know
Is
there's
that
a cyber
SEMA?
gun. Yeah, there's a cyber
Nah,
version
I,
of
but
featherweight.
do you know what I can't remember what the brand is, but they're somewhat popular. It's Specna. It's Specna Arms. So Specna
Ah,
Arms has released the featherweight series of 249s, and they have like three. It's made by A&K, so it's still A&K in the sense of you know what you're getting, but they have like a half polymer, half metal, and then they have a full polymer variant called the featherweight. The featherweight I think is like 7 pounds, so
oh
it weighs
wow.
about as much as your M4,
Oh
and
wow.
it's got like
So,
feels good to
yeah.
me.
but now how tough is that going to be? See, because this is always my problem with
Yeah, that's a good
any
question.
airsoft model, AK or just LMG and stuff. Because once you, like it's already like kind of questionable with the polymer M4s and the AKs and other sniper rifles and such like
Mhm.
that. There's twists, there's creaks, there's groans, like, and then all of a sudden, you pay the higher price point, and you start getting into the heavier products where it's getting heavier, and now it's supposed to be stronger, but sometimes you get stuff that's like
Yeah,
Chinese pop metal, and yeah, like it's not what you hope for.
I think it all depends on the company too that you buy from, because both of my machine guns are a little bit on the pricier side, but the quality of the materials are higher in terms of spec. So my Stoner 63 is made by GMP, and the outer body is steel, and the LCT RPD is steel and it's milled. It's a solid chunk of steel basically, and I'm pretty confident I could probably throw it at something and it'll be fine. So
Okay.
the price point for LMGs, yeah, it's steep, and there are budget options for them, but obviously they're going to have their limitations, I would say. But if you're going to jump into that world, you will pay for a little bit more, and I would say they are a little bit more robust in some cases. It's usually the nuanced parts on them, like the bipods, generally speaking. I know GMP made a series of 249s out of like solid steel, and they milled it, and they were the same weight as the real one, which was sick. But they had some finicky issues with their box mag feeding system, but the external build was just it was a rock basically, and that's a good thing when you want to buy something that's meant for the role. And in reality, like with machine guns, if you're being soft about it, you're doing something wrong. You should be pretty aggressive with the platforms in general.
I think generally the older the platform is, the more expensive they are because they're like antiques
Yeah.
at that point. You guys
Okay.
have you guys wielded or seen the GNG M2 MG42
Yes.
and the 34s? Oh my god, they're beautiful. But do you know what the price point is on
They're
that?
heavy. They're like 2K.
Oh,
Yeah.
my god,
Yeah.
yeah, 2K
But it's
Canadian, yeah.
Yeah, but again, it's milled.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing, though. At that point, you're paying the price for the manufacturing of a product that you would I would argue is up there on the level of like quality, because you could buy back in the day an AGM or like what the hell is it? I can't remember the other brand, but there were variants of the MG3s that were made before, but they
Yeah.
were cast mold injected with zinc, and they were just crap. So if you're gonna buy a high quality one, yeah, go for the milled ones, and if you have the money, buy it because it'll hold up, and it holds its value really well too, just because the manufacturing of it is so good. You can't really get that out of what is it, like mold form injection or anything like that. You just don't get the same type of robustness out of it.
Mm.
Okay. All right. Well, definitely we've gone over some of the brands that that we recommend. Are there any brands to avoid? Obviously, because we were just previously talking about them being worth their price point. There are obviously
Ooh,
going to be some that aren't worth their price point, and specifically, I believe that comes down to some of the brands. Schoolboy, could you
yeah,
sort of enlighten some people from your experience?
yeah. If I'm gonna nail it on the head, it's gonna be two off the top of my head. It's gonna be Ares and Classic Army. So both of them are pretty notorious for the internal build being really really poor in terms of specs, and then their externals at times can be somewhat questionable. I did like Classic Army 249s. They were built a lot better than A&Ks just in terms of like the fit and finish, and they would hold up. But their gearbox, the internals were just a sham right out of the box. You'd have to either immediately upgrade it or do something to it, or else if you ran it stock, it break pretty or fairly quick, I should say. And then back in the day, before Ares was Ares, they were called Star, but they used to produce all the M60s you can think of under the besides the Big Pig that A&K produces. They produced the Mark 43 as well as the lighter variants and some of the stoners as well, like the 96. They didn't produce the 63s, but the build quality of them were just really like external. They felt nice, but they were just shit. It was a combination of like really cheap ABS plastic and then cast like zinc or magnesium bodies, so you could basically break it just by flexing it hard enough. And then
Right.
their box mag feed system and their gearbox were just atrocious. They were just garbage. I do know one person though, and I will give this guy credit where it's due. He still has his M60, his Mark 43 made by Ares, and he still runs it and it still works, which is very, very odd because they're well known for just shitting out.
That means he hasn't played a lot then.
He actually does though, but he just plays in a different area. He doesn't play with us, unfortunately. He's
Ah,
one of the I think he plays with Bigfoot and like the guys out in Millionaire. He did, so he hasn't ventured out here at all.
gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, so that's good to know. I definitely like obviously when it comes to brands and stuff like that, you don't have very many options. Obviously, this
Yeah,
last year though, as Poi was mentioning, with G&G expanding some of their lines and platforms, they did introduce the German machine gun line, which you know, G&G
Okay.
are pretty reliable in my opinion. They do have faults, but all in all, they are pretty easy to deal with company, I find.
Right.
But Mac, you go ahead on your point there.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to ask you guys because we are going over like the real world variant ones, right? So I'm not sure if they are real, but what do you guys feel? And I believe their price point is a little kinder, but I haven't had any experience with it. But I do believe we have the G&G LMG variant where it's basically just a big bulky M4 with a box mag, and then what is it? Crytek came out with their version of
Yeah,
the Striker or
Strike.
Striker or something.
It's the Strike. I
Yeah.
can touch on this because I do know the history
Perfect.
of
Okay.
it.
So
The-
are they even real? Are they real
Yeah,
variants
so-
or no?
Yeah, the Strikes are real, what you would call conversion kits, and they are real machine guns in the sense that they were created. So, not to be confused with the airsoft company Ares, but there's Ares Armament down in the States, which produces the Shrike series. They've been making them since I think 2006 is when they first started prototyping them. And the idea was essentially taking an AR lower and then slapping on an upper system that was designed to be open bolt and belt fed or magazine fed. They perfected it and made it a functional system. It never got adopted for obvious reasons. Like ideas like this in the real world are very rare to be adopted over a traditional machine gun just for durability and torture testing issues.
Exactly.
And
Yeah, I don't think that barrel can
nuanced
take
things,
that.
yeah.
Well, the
Yeah.
functionality aspect of that is like amazing, but I just don't think the practical aspect is there.
Yeah, it's super cool, but at the same time, you still have the inherent weaknesses that the real AR platform experiences with lower receivers after prolonged periods of time of full automatic sustained fire. And it's just not designed, like the system was not designed from the get-go by Eugene Stoner to be a machine gun. That's why those ideas kind of died off even when they came up with LSW variants of
Yeah.
basically M16s. But anyways, going back to the Shrike is a real gun. It does exist, and both Crytek and G&G have made variants essentially of them. And I like the G&G one a little bit better. It looks more genuine to the Shrike. I know JG Golden Eagle came out with the Shrike as well too, which looks just like the Ares Armament one in the real world. They do count as machine guns in airsoft, and they are budget friendly. And I would say that they're probably lighter than any machine gun that I carry. I actually maybe not my Stoner at this point, but still, they're out there and they exist. And yeah, man, like if you want an alternative variant to like the big boys, it's definitely a good way to go.
Crytek also makes one as well for their side. I don't know
They
if
do.
that's based on
Yeah, no, they
your
are.
kind of
The
okay,
enhanced,
same
the
thing.
enhan-
Gotcha.
Yeah, the enhanced version is the only one I think that isn't based on the real one. They kind of made a cool new handguard that kind of looks sweet. And then they had the original version, which they don't produce anymore, which was more traditional. I don't know why they put a 249 handguard on it. That wasn't really a thing on the area strikes for quite a long time now. But yeah, I mean, you have options with those, and they're sick. But at the same time, like I think they're only like $150 more than your standard AEG. So if you want to talk about like an entry point level for machine gunning, it definitely works. And they feed off box mags, which use the magwell adapters, so you can use standard magazines as well with this. You're not limited, which is really nice.
Is it similar to something like a G36, the MG variant of it?
The MG36,
Yeah, the
kind of.
MG36 with the
Yeah, in a
double
sense.
C mag and the bipods at the front.
Kind of in a sense, but the Shrike series that they based it off of actually does feed off a standard M27 link belt system.
Mm,
For airsoft, it doesn't matter, but
no,
you could
yeah.
consider it a belt fed weapon. I haven't seen an MG36 in God knows how long in airsoft, but it'd be super cool to see
Yeah,
someone
it would be
whip it
nice.
out.
It would be nice to
I've-
get those back.
I've only seen one of them, and it was a Wii platform because, as far as I know, Wii is the only one that makes a AG version of that. And I can't remember. I think he was wearing a Spanish kit. But they came out for like one or two
That's cool.
weekends, and then I haven't seen him since. They might have been coming up here and visiting and whatnot. But okay, so moving on from brands and certain brands to avoid. Um, some of you guys might hate this, but I'm gonna have to ask: HPA or battery operated?
I'll put my opinion on it because I've experienced this in
Wow,
Milsim
that's
West.
okay, boy. We already know your opinion on the matter.
No, actually, for HPA system, if you're doing crew serve, I'm totally okay with it with being a crew serve weapon because if you HPA tap your gun, it's actually really good because of the fact that you're carrying an if you're gonna carry a tank, you might as well bring a scuba tank as well.
Where is the real poi?
What
I'm
happened?
here.
What did you
Well,
do with it?
well, okay. Keeping in line with the definitions that I put out, right?
Right.
Again, we're working with crew serve weapons. They're already carrying a tripod. They're already carrying extra ammo. They're already carrying this. If you include a tank, like a
Yeah.
like a high pressure tank with it,
Right.
right? You're already operating as a crew. So
Okay.
in a Milsim environment, that's actually
Okay,
makes sense.
But what about not a crew served weapon? So what if I go just down to a 249? If I tap a 249, are you mad?
No, as long as you're designated as an LMG or like a GPMG or a squad automatic weapon, I mean you're
Yeah.
good to go. Unless everybody's using it, then
So
that's an issue.
cool.
Right. Okay.
You got a whole squad with like with
Yeah, so
Okay, well,
I would
definitely
have a
see-
limiting factor in that. We could jump into airsoft tactics for that anyway, but yeah, HPA I'm okay with it. Why? Because it sticks in line with what a machine gun is, right? It's depending on which model you're looking at, like an HMG or something that is
Yeah.
GPMG. Yeah, you're working with the crew, and it's already heavy. If you're using a squad automatic weapon, you're already limited to your mobility at that point. But at least you're still sticking with the group, right? And your air doesn't last that long too. So especially in a long like sim, right? You want to carry a heavier, bigger tank, right?
Mhm.
So I'm
Okay.
I'm okay with it. You're keeping in line with the true nature of what the general purpose machine gun is or a squad automatic weapon, right? You're limited to your mobility, the weight, right? And well, the ammunition's already there because you're sharing it with everybody. But in a scenario where you are limited to ammo, right?
Mhm.
You're there to suppress the enemy with what you have, and HPAing something basically makes it overpowered in airsoft, right? That is your big up advantage, right? But you're gonna use up more ammo. So
Right.
there's
Yeah,
my
I guess
point on
so.
it, right?
Okay,
Battery
so-
operated, I'm
Yeah.
okay with it too. But as far as HPA goes, I'm okay with it. So there you go.
Okay.
The only time I
so-
agree.
Okay. So for your opinion, in the terms of Milsim and stuff like that, because it sort of applies to the whole spirit of the platform and whatnot, HPA is a sort of option for you there. Okay, so Mac, HPA or battery when it comes to the machine gun platform.
Okay, so I already will not allow or use myself, like just drop-ins. So I'm not talking on a drop-in sense, like I'm not going to a weekend skirmish, but at a Milsim event and everything like that, where you have like a sustain, you could have like a sustained firefight, and then you have a lull, and then you can get into another one, where it's like it's as close to as a civilian can get to having like a war game. I would like I like the fact that HPA kind of adds in another ammo factor. You kind of have to be reserved on what you do. You kind of have to, you have to lug it around. So speaking from personal experience, I brought an HPA gun to my second Milsim West event, and I had 5 tanks.
Oof.
Yeah, so I didn't
Nice.
use all 5 tanks, but again, I had the option that like basically what I did was I completely blew the first one because I was like, I can shoot as much as I want, and I got to the 3rd tank, and I was like, okay, this is where I need to kind of be smarter now, with conserving the air because it's as well as ammo, it's finite, right? So yeah, so in that sense, you can do a lot more with HPA to make it more of an effective tool in your in your armory, but battery operated definitely has the same kind of like flaws where you do need to have your battery only lasts so long, but it's easier to kind of rectify that than it is with HPA. And then with HPA too, you have another thing that can go wrong. But again, airsoft guns can break, just like real guns can break. So I think you're just gonna have to kind of cross your fingers.
Okay. All right. Schoolboy, HPA or battery operated?
So I'm for both. I run AEG right now, but I might hint to this idea in the future. But if I completely destroy my stoner again, which is I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, just from the way that I built it, I'm considering switching over to HPA for it because I talked to my buddies down in the States who do run on either stoners and the sort of light platform that we've adapted it for, or other MMGs basically to the same sort of category. They run it on HPA because HPA is actually more reliable than an AEG gearbox. Mind you, that all depends on how you tune it and what type of battery you run. And I'm not going to get into that right away. But yeah, I mean, HPA is a good option for machine guns. I would definitely say that. The only consideration I'd say for the average person is keep the rate of fire reasonable, because a lot of HPA guys like to go on the higher side of rate of fire because you can maintain it and sustain it easily. But for the purpose of machine gunning, it doesn't actually meld well or correlate well. It just and I'll explain it a little bit as we keep going down with the questions. But yeah, I'm all for it if that's the case, because it's a good opportunity to kind of employ a system that works and to enhance it a little bit more too.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So-
I want to add to that as well. I've talked to Josh Warren, Milsim West's owner, basically about this topic because we were talking about HPA systems and how it's implemented in Milsim West games, because they're way too, like, he agrees that it's way too overpowered for using it on like regular ARs or just any assault weapons. But
Yeah.
when it comes to machine guns, right? Again, implementing that point of because you have to carry a tank with you, it usually serves as a crew served, and the purpose is to provide heavy sustained fire for long periods of time, right? HPA is all that, and for him, he's okay with it, using it on scenarios like that. But keep in mind that if you're using it for that scenario, you're still limited to ammo. Machine gunners do get a bunch of ammo at Milsim West, but you're limited to 5,000 rounds, and we all know 5,000 rounds is not a lot of ammo for MG users in Milsim West.
That means find your rate of fire.
Yeah. So he's okay with it as long as you're operating as a crew serve weapon, or at least you have another person with you operating it like as a squad automatic weapon or a GPMG, because you're gonna carry that tank, and your crew's gonna carry the tank, the gun itself. You're already like handicapped for mobility at that point.
Yeah.
Right. So that is, he's totally cool with it, but using it as a system for your M4 or AK or whatever, not okay with it. It's frowned upon, but he's not going to kick you out of a game for that. And I'm the same mentality as well. Like, that's why you hear me change tones here, because for MGs and HPA, I'm all for it. I'm okay with it. Regular games, no.
Okay. See here. Moving on. Because for me, I'm with whatever. I like the spirit of the game. I like playing the class and the platform. So whatever fits the bill, I'm gonna shape myself to that. Next question though. GBB, because obviously this is something that we kind of brushed over a little bit, but there's a reason for it, and I know you guys are laughing, but yeah. Do they exist?
I don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's one.
There's one.
There's one system.
There's one.
And it sucks because you had to
Don't
use
bother.
10,000 rounds to break it in. It's a Daytona.
Don't.
Well, that technically isn't a GBB.
No, it's not.
That's
No, they
HPA.
actually had one prototype that was on YouTube for like, I think it's like 8 years ago or 7 years ago, somewhere around there, and they showed it. They're filling up the like the box mag with the fake link ammo, and then they showed it working. You know, it's like an open bolt system or whatever.
Oh man, do you know how sick that would be?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have it.
But
it'd be
but the,
it'd be real. Hold on, it'd be real in the sense of you'd have a stoppage every 5 to 10
Yeah.
rounds because you don't lubricate it enough.
you gotta
100%. Actually, that's my first thought too of a GBB one. It's like, wow, all the problems and disappointments, but in a Milsim game, on a platform that's needed. Yes, talk about an experience.
I can't. It's jammed.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
rack it twice.
you're telling me I paid $1,400 for this experience? Yes.
And this is why HPA is superior for this model.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, and
So they
speaking of
don't-
that video that you were talking about, boy, I do remember seeing
Hands
that
down, they
one,
don't
and,
exist because that guy probably only had one
They-
prototype and he never worked on it afterwards.
It wasn't actually a guy. It was,
His hopes and
it
dreams
was,
went out the window.
so it was actually going to be made by, I believe it was A&K.
Yeah.
A&K was working on a gas.
That was the that
system
was the
for
only
that.
prototype, I believe.
But yeah, they only did one showcase on it. They also had a prototype model of it at SHOT Show.
Really? Okay.
I don't remember what year it was,
Did
but
it catch on fire?
I do remember them showcasing it and people looking at it, and the box mag itself being mentioned to be very heavy because
No
of the,
shit.
because of it being
Really?
the reservoir.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was being
Awesome.
described
So
without it being
not
filled
only
with gas. So
not only is it going to jam and constantly stop because you're going to have the system freeze up, but you won't have enough gas to get through however much ammo you can carry in that thing.
And you're gonna
Well,
carry a whole bunch of box
No,
mags
man,
with you.
it'll be real.
so
It'll be
The
real.
immersion.
250 rounds.
it was speculated that yeah, the only reason that it didn't go through with past the prototype phase is be exactly with the cooldown effect. I don't even think they
Yep.
could reach a acceptable rate of fire on full auto before the cooldown effect would diminish
Well, of
it.
course. Well,
But they did
yeah, of
have a
course.
very good box mag system, from what I understood, was that it used a spring-fed system similar to the what's it called, the Vulcan cannon, the chain gun,
Yeah.
with a spring-fed system. But of course, freeze ups, big thumbs
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. So why would you even bother at that point?
and I can't imagine the price point on it, so I am sure that's exactly why they stopped producing it, and I'm sure they might have had problems with selling the magazine as well. It being a
Did you do it with CO2?
no, it was
Yeah,
with
you'd
gas.
still. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to do it with CO2. You'd still get freeze ups just from the automatic fire over a period of time.
You know, this
to
is
even
when
achieve
this
it.
is when
Okay,
HPA
okay.
tapping it is probably the best option at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, what about compressed air capsules or something like that? Because I mean, you have an air stock. What if you were to rig up some sort of air stock variant?
Yeah, at that point, I would say you just have a hose line hook up to the
Yeah.
system, kind of like a Daytona, and just have it feed directly into it. Because at the same time, to move like a bolt carrier housing back and forth repetitiously, depending on the size of it too, because if you're going with GBB, naturally airsofters want the recoil, so you're going to have a big chunk of steel, and it's a lot bigger than your like average M4 bolt. That's why
That's
Daytona
gonna-
kind of
gonna need a
That's
lot of
why it
air.
takes so much
Yeah.
air, yeah,
yeah,
Okay.
and Daytonas are dog shit. So
I know.
sad
Yeah.
face.
Well, just don't buy them secondhand. That's my advice to you. If you're gonna buy a Daytona, buy the upgraded
Yep.
package that they sell off their website, so that they deal with all the headaches for you, and then they give you a finished product. That's
Yeah,
all I
and you
have to
gotta
say
break it
about that.
in, do everything. Yeah,
10,000 rounds to break them in. It's
Yep.
so silly.
so expensive.
And that's if you put it together properly the first time. Okay, moving on, guys. We're going to be talking about airsoft tactics when it comes to the
Oh,
MG
yeah.
Oh,
platform.
my favorite.
Yes.
So, is the MG an undervalued asset in a team-oriented scenario?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mac, we'll start with you. What's your opinion on that?
Yes, don't use them in my dropping games.
Oh, okay. All right. So you guys know Mac's opinion on that. Don't bring him on the weekend. Okay. All right. Poi, is the MG a valued asset?
Yes, I would say so. I've been to many like Milsims and Panther and as well as everywhere else here. Undervalued? Yes. I mean, should you operate it the same as a modern sort of machine gunner squad would. Yes, because a lot of the teams nowadays, they revolve around the machine gun team, right?
Mhm.
They are a force multiplier to begin with. You basically roll with them, and if stuff happens, you get ambush. You know, the first thing you're gonna do is deploy the MG, put down some suppressing fire at the direction you want that they're trying to get you, and then have your team fan out to the flanks and then move in for the kill. You know, find them, fix them,
Oh,
and then flank them is the standard role that we're looking at here,
Mhm.
right?
okay.
And
Alright.
yeah, if it's in a milsim, yeah, it I would highly agree that they need to utilize it more. But we'll
Okay.
get into milsim in a little bit here. But yeah, it is undervalued, and what I hate the most is having an entire team of just machine gunners. Then that's just a regular skirmish at that point.
Okay. All right. Schoolboy, from your experience running the MG platform, do you find yourself being an undervalued asset? Do you find yourself sitting in a bush more often than being used?
No, but I will. Oh man, am I allowed to nerd out? Can
Yes.
I go deep into this one? All right, sick. Okay,
Yes.
so in airsoft, MGs are an underrated asset, and I don't like the general nuanced thought process to it because people in airsoft always think that machine guns are very stationary. I'm very much against that because even in the real world, machine guns are highly mobile assets now. And what I mean by that is when you're talking about like personnel moving, the machine gunner is usually the dude that's switched on and he's punching. And the reason why I say that is because the force multiplication you get from it is so heavy to the point where you need to be moving. So in airsoft, there's always this nuance where guys go, "Oh yeah, okay, the machine gunner will stay back and support us," kind of like in video games and movies. That's completely wrong. The machine gunner is supposed to be on the flank, and if anything, you're ahead of most of the dudes, and you're putting a lot of fire down, especially when you get into contact. So I play in that mannerism, and I do it on regular game days, and I'll do it when I go to a sim again as well. And the whole reason why is the amount of force that you bring with that volume is something that you can't really curb if someone knows what they're doing with it. And application is everything. So my buddies down in the States did the same thing that I did up here with my stoner. And I'm doing it with other machine guns that I have, which is essentially shrinking the platform in airsoft because you can get away with a lot of things in airsoft, like
Yep.
cutting the barrels down and making them lighter, which is ideal because the faster you are and the more mobile you are with it, the the better you are going to be for sort of the squad and the movement and the flow. So I'm usually out on the flanks. I think anybody that's kind of played against me these days has kind of experienced this where I immediately shift left or right and I'm on the far side of the flank and I'm putting essentially like crossing arcs of fire in a cone of fire on other players, essentially hitting them from a side. It it works incredibly well. And yeah, I mean, even to Mac's point where like don't bring them to drop-ins, if you want to learn how to apply machine guns on some of the bigger games when you get out into the field at Panther, do that and learn how to actually employ it because the type of application that you want to use it for is not directly head on. You want to hit guys from the flanks. And it's incredible what you can do. You can clear out an entire laneway and then you start walking in your fire and you just start going in on targets. And I think some of the guys at the field who've been on the opposite end, because I've had a few come up to me and they go, dude, it's terrifying. Because I walk it in to the point where I'll stand up and I'll start approaching a target, walking while firing bursts like one over the other on like 2, 3 targets, not even intending to hit them, but more or less just putting fire on them to the point where you can get right up in people's hair. And it works really, really well. So, I mean, in terms of airsoft, it is a very undervalued asset. And then a lot of people kind of have the nuanced idea where, oh, yeah, I could do the same with my AK if I switch it to full auto. It's like, no, dude, you don't have a box mag that feeds. And if your system's dedicated to an MG platform, believe me, there's a huge difference between that and then buddy over here running an AK or an AR at like high rate of fire. And I don't actually run a high rate of fire, which is kind of the funny part. I only run 17 rounds per minute. What is it? 17 rounds per second, which equates to 700 rounds. I think it's 700 rounds per minute. I do it per minute, pardon me, and then I have an adverse mode for when things get really hairy, which is 1,000 rounds per minute, and that's not any faster than like 22 BBs a second. I'm actually running a slower rate of fire than the average player on a rifle, and the whole reason why is to conserve the amount of ammunition, even though it's a large volume, so I could spread that out over a long period of time, and it's consecutively like firing bursts down basically anywhere from 3 to 5, and in some cases, like when things get hairy, it's like, oh crap, I got to put down 10 to 15. And then at that point, like you're talking about a lot of bodies too on the other side in terms of people coming at you or people you're hitting. Because again, it's a force multiplier. And if you're working in a squad, a single machine gun is 60% of your firepower. If you have 2 of them in a squad, yeah, you've got a wrecking ball basically coming your way, especially if they know how to work together and talk guns.
Yep.
It's a nasty experience to be on the other end. And it, like, I hate to say it, but it'll always kind of piss people off because it's kind of like kicking a hornet's nest, and all of a sudden you have a lot of rounds flying down your way, and nobody likes it, regardless of whether you're on the receiving end or not. It's not a fun experience, and that's how machine guns are supposed to be implemented, and it really kind of psychologically screws with people, especially when the machine gun dude is fast and can get up on top of your position. You're like, oh my god, like I got a lot of rounds coming down on me and I don't know what to do. It's huge. And I got a funny story to go with that. So, I mean, I was playing with a group of guys, and there was 4 of us. We were on the far left side of, we were doing the one where it's usually from like Wolf's Den now to the, I can't remember what we call the other tunnel now, but basically the 2 wood structure tunnels essentially.
Yep.
And we were assaulting over the trench line, and it was to take the trench, and we went on the far left side. We cleared out 10 guys over the trench area, and we came up to the point where we were overwalking the trench, and there were 3 dudes in the bunker. Now, naturally, I can't shoot into the bunker for obvious reasons. It's not courteous, and at the same time, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that. So I literally yelled at them. I said, hey, listen, I got a machine gun, and I got to put a burst in there if you guys don't come out. I wasn't going to. I was bluffing, but I wanted to see if it would work. One dude comes out, goes, okay, I don't want to get lit up. I was like, oh my god, that worked. And I got my buddy the time with the pistol. I'm like, hey, go check it out. Like, go see if there's another buddy in there. So the other guy starts shooting out of the bunker. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, hold on a second, don't go in there. I'm just gonna see what happens. And I said, hey, I'm giving you one more opportunity. Come out of the bunker, or I'm putting a big burst in there. I got a machine gun. The guy's like, yeah, I don't want to get shot by that. Okay. And he came out of the bunker and left as well. It's amazing what kind of psychological effect you can have on people when you actually know how to play with a machine gun, especially if their buddies get taken out before it and there's like a few left. Now, mind you, I don't want to do that kind of thing, but the intimidation factor was enough that I could bluff my way to them actually coming out of a bunker, which was sweet. And I didn't even get to shoot him. So,
Oh, okay. Well,
I will
all
allow.
right. You will allow this. Okay.
Yeah, you also gotta like what you're talking there, schoolboy, is like you using the tactics on your own.
Yeah.
You also gotta practice with your team as well to know that your
it's a big
standard
one.
rifleman. That's a big one. Your standard rifleman is pushing witches as well. You can't just have all the machine gunners do the work because they can keep their heads down, but at the end you want to flank them as
Yep.
as you're suppressing them, because
Yeah,
for
and
you
any
to
large-
move, it's like you're a huge asset. So if they lose you, they're gonna lose that firepower right away.
Yeah,
So
I would
you would
say
want
any
you will want your riflemen to flank up and push up on them and close in with the enemy.
Yeah, well, your
Uh,
riflemen are going to be the ones hitting them from the front. You're going to be the one on the flank hitting them with side fire.
Yeah.
And the reason why you do that is the riflemen essentially are going to bound up whenever you're putting volumes down on them. And at the same time, like any big team would be wise to implement at least 1 or 2 machine guns. And it's crazy how much freedom of movement it gives you if you're using it properly. And I mean, yeah, it's definitely one of those things that makes you, like I said, like a big juicy target. Just the psychological factor of it. It's first thing is when you get volleys of fire coming, you're like, oh god, I got to kill that machine gun. But if your machine gunner knows what he's doing, you can guarantee you have riflemen pushing directly into you as he's firing on you.
Yep.
excuse me one moment, guys. Just got a knock on my door.
Okay.
So yeah, as a rifleman, right? Providing cover for your MG team is basically a huge like a huge task for you, because once you start hearing one or two guns talking to each other, they're basically going to try and push up on that MG, because they know right away that it is a force multiplier for their
Yeah,
for the enemy team, and
I'd say
for
if
them
you're
to
firing and you're talking, most people don't push on them though. That's
yeah
the time that you get your rifleman to push into the enemy, because you've got to at that point you've established a baseline and you've got enough firepower to the point where someone doesn't pardon my language again, someone doesn't really want to fuck with you,
yeah
especially if it's accurate fire and it's coming from two different directions.
oh yeah
It's one of
that's
those things that's
yeah
it's
I've
great.
I've had that situation before on my team where yeah we have faced off with you, or someone else who has machine guns that knows how to actually do talking guns, and figuring like my first priority, especially when they're assaulting us,
Yeah,
is
kill
like
the machine gun.
try to figure out where the machine gun is, right? Prioritize your men, and form that skirmish line right away. Keep your heads down. Try to figure out where it is, and then that's when I send Dayton in and be like, yeah, he's right over there, trees, left side, right beside those tires. Take him out. And that's when the implementation of very accurate, like what is it uh marksman comes in, and
Yep.
yeah, either a sniper or a marksman comes in and just direct target a
Or
single
lots of grenades.
person. Oh, yeah, or grenades too. But yeah, no, I get how important an MG is on the enemy side, because once he starts laying fire, everyone is gonna like center focus right away on that, because that is my first priority, just to take that out right away, because that is, yeah, it's just laying hate on you, especially when we had
Oh yeah.
games up at when we had the fortress and stuff. Those are always fun to figure out where the machine
Yeah.
gunners are.
It's like kicking. Yeah, it's like a hornet's nest. It's not fun.
No, no, and yeah, so that's like proper usage of an MG on a squad. Yeah, never leave your NG gunner in a vulnerable position. Always
Yeah.
protect its flanks. That is a big one. And then if you are in an area where he is vulnerable, yeah, displace your MG and then replace him at a position where you could actually protect him properly, right? Or if you're gonna move up, have your riflemen's move up first and then have him displace and then move up afterwards. I mean, that's pretty much like once you move up to MG again, then you're basically repositioning and then laying down that hate again, because that's, yeah, it's fun going through and
Yep.
actually using that, like especially practicing as well. Um
Oh yeah.
yeah, and as far as defensive goes, we all know how well machine guns do, especially in an ambush or in a defensive position.
Yeah,
Put
it's not fun to assault positions when you know you have entrenched machine guns.
yeah,
And if their cone of fire or arc of fire is really good, you're gonna have a really hard time digging them out.
oh yeah,
It's the principle of application with machine gunnery is it's really good. And I mean, for the players out there who want to get into this, I mean, I highly encourage this, but go online and go on Google. Look up machine gunnery, look up the theory behind it if you can. You can even find the old FM manuals at surplus stores. The theory hasn't actually changed that
nope,
much
it hasn't.
over 100 years. The only part that has changed essentially is how much faster you move with it.
And how
And
lighty
then,
they are.
yeah, and some of the nuanced theories that have come up with it that also apply really well in terms of like special forces tactics or small team tactics, I should say more accurately. Leapfrogging with machine guns, if you've ever done it, is freaking sweet
It is.
because you can move so much more progressively too. I mean, mind your ammunition, but at the same time, just how fast you can get up on a target, whether it be a group of guys or an objective or seizing a position, it gives you that cone of fire and that volume that can't really be matched. And even if you try to match it, I've had it with guys in the field where I'll get into I guess almost a sort of a stalemate for a short period of time,
Yeah.
where they have rifles and they start firing automatic as I'm firing automatic. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just increase my rate of fire and just put more BBs downrange on them. And it gets to a point where it's like their rate of fire slows down either because their ammunition is running dry or they realize that, oh crap, like there's something more to this than just a regular dude, with a rifle. And I ran with a guy like a couple months back, basically, and he had a PKM and I had the stoner, and the two of us were just bounding, just on our own, mind you, on the opposing side of the field, concurrent to our team and flanking them. But it was ridiculous just how much freedom of movement we got, and to the point where when we'd encounter like 3 or 4 guys, basically, just the sheer volume of fire that we could put down was something that they couldn't match. And it was deadly, because it doesn't need to be accurate at that point, because something is going to eventually catch you. And just the volume of it, either you're going to pull back or you're going to get hit at some point, because it's a lot. And then when you get, dudes that are working together in tandem, it's a good time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm all for MGs. I'm all for tactics. And then, like, if you can, like, ditch a bipod, get a grip pod, so you can have best of both worlds, and then shorten the barrel system, and just, if you can make it smaller in
Very
airsoft,
British.
yeah, if you can make it smaller, man, like, you get a lot more mobility out of them. And at the same time, for the purpose of airsoft, because our ranges, arguably speaking, are always the same,
Yeah.
we're engaging, like, we're all able to hit each other. Having a machine gun that is a little bit more mobile will definitely benefit you. And I mean, guys can reference it online. If you look up like Chop Stoner 63s or 249 Paras is a great example, because you don't really need to do much and it's already good to go. And then there's guys that take RPDs, and I hate to say it, I'm about to do it with mine at some point, but I'm gonna chop the barrel basically and have a short
No.
RPD.
I know what you're doing. and please stop. No.
You demon monster.
Hey man, I gotta make it more mobile. Maybe I'll make a carbon
You
fiber
know what?
barrel
Let's
while I'm
just
at it.
jump into it. We've already talked about HPA and
Yeah.
CSW. Let's jump into just the tech talk of things here for
Oh,
for
absolutely.
general airsoft stuff. Tack, you want to take the lead on this because you're the tech here, and Schoolboy, you guys are just gonna be talking a lot here. But what sort of upgrades are we looking at here for both of you? When it comes to like just an MG, let's just start off with like the M249, which is the popular version.
So what people need to understand, actually, so when it comes to the tech side of things for the MG platform, most will be copying the M249 gearbox, with slight modifications and like quote unquote improvements. I know the PKP or the PKM or the gearbox looks similar to the M249, but I believe it's slightly longer, so they are not interchangeable and whatnot. From a gearbox standpoint, they're super beefy, so the stock gearbox in itself is actually pretty decent. Like from an upgrade standpoint, right? Like I'm a big person on not upgrading something until you get your money's worth out of it, and then look
Agreed.
for other options. So they work great stock. Obviously, they can have their problems. The one problem that they have is just that they chew through pistons really easily. But again, from a tech perspective, I know earlier I said this is not a newbie's gun to get, but from a teching perspective, this is definitely a platform I would suggest as your second gun to buy, just because if you're looking into getting into teching and whatnot, these are just as easy, if not easier, to tech than an M4 platform. Just because of some of the
They're bigger,
user-friendly aspects that well, they're bigger. It has a quick change spring function in it, which makes taking a gearbox apart 70% easier.
They're actually simpler. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
And
simpler in design.
yeah, they're a little different in how the gears are orientated, but most people will get the picture. They follow pretty much the same upgrade schedule that you would any standard platform, in my opinion. So just like with anything, most people usually tell me that they want to work on range. So check out your hop up, check out your barrel and whatnot. They usually come with a really cheap brass barrel, so that's kind of the first place I would look at doing any kind of upgrade, as well as changing your hop up bucking or your hop up rubber there. But I don't know, like yeah, like from that perspective, that's like my thing on like upgrades. Like obviously, you can get a bull gear pop up and whatnot. I don't know, boy, what's your take on the upgradability of the platform?
So I've noodled around with this for a long time. Machine guns are one of those things that I really love. So I kind of experimented with a few different ideas. Now, there's 2 things that I think most people need to keep in mind is, one, don't go for a high rate of fire. and then 2, go for economy or longevity, basically, with the platform. So it sounds kind of goofy, but the stoner that I use, and most stoners 63s, are version 2 gearboxes, believe it or not. So yeah, we're at a bit of a disadvantage there in terms of gearbox design and the certain flaws that come with V2s. But for other 249s, or for other machine guns like 249s, they're 90% compatible in terms of V2 parts, so you can use the same interoperability with changing gears and pistons and so on and so forth. With the exception, I think, of what is it? I believe it's just the MOSFET, the MOSFET or the wiring system that's different, and I think everything else, if I'm not mistaken, is compatible besides the spring guides. Anyways, getting into it, keep your rate of fire low. So you don't need anything that goes stupid fast. You need something that's consistent, and then really, like, in terms of upgrades, focus on, I'd say, how much battery draw you have from it. So the goal is to just have the system run for a long time. The 249 that I built a while ago, that's up on my Instagram. My buddy still uses that. We bought it between the two of us as a team weapon, I guess, at the time, and he keeps it, mind you, and it's still going. And just a testament to that, I did the same philosophy I did with that one in terms of what I put into my stoner. And I've used my stoner and gone through probably close to 500 or 600,000 rounds, and I haven't had it break, with the exception of the original gearbox finally cracking at, I think, 350,000 rounds, and it had already been a used gun before I bought it. But everything I had put into it prior is still functioning and hasn't broken yet. So you can definitely get longevity out of the system. Just, you don't need to go for like 30 BBs a second. You just need something that kind of chugs at a nice rate. Hop up systems, I always say just go with a simple flat hop if you want the range and the effectiveness. You'll have to change it more frequently than a regular hop up, but at the same time, it'll give you a little bit more of a boost with the push of the BB going out that way. And then the one big thing to focus on, which a lot of MGs have more issues with, is the box mags. And the box mags are really where you get a lot of your problems. So with A&Ks and a lot of the cheaper box mags out there that you get with the gun stock, in most cases, they're battery powered, they're separate from the gun, and they require you to either push a button or have like a sound activation. Yeah, or like, I can't remember what the other one is. But anyways,
push button
yeah.
activation.
Push button too.
Yeah.
Exactly. So those ones are problematic in the sense that they tend to jam because the gears are cheap and made of plastic. Now, there is a company out of Russia that I love ordering from called Bulgear, and I consistently replace the internals of any sort of box mags that I have with that. And at this point, because I get surplus ones, I put them in with an insert, and I rewire them to feed directly off the machine gun itself, which is actually more beneficial for you in the long run, because if your economy of fire is good with the machine gun, you can do a little bit more power draw to feed the box mag, and it'll work in tandem. So you don't have the system feeding separately. You won't get that pre-wind that makes it super noisy if you're trying to be sneaky, and you won't have to press a button. It'll feed directly as you fire. The only downside is you have to dry fire the gun a little bit to get the BBs to feed up the tube. Or what you can do is you fill the tube up if you really want to beforehand, but it's all up to user preference.
Here's an idea.
Yeah.
Why don't they make something that, you know how like trigger systems have like a trigger wall, like, you know,
Oh,
how
yeah.
you if you pull just a little bit, that's your activator.
You mean have like you mean like a preset
and then
system?
when you actually hit the wall and then push or pull the trigger, that's when you're actually
So,
firing.
so fun fact, GMP Stoner 63s and their 249 series, GMP was the only company that actually did that. Their box mags had a separate button on them, and if you press them once, you could pre-wind the box mag to fill the BB tube with BBs up until there's pressure on the gun, and then as you fired, it would feed directly off the gun's electrical current. So it was, or not current, it was a signal wire that would cause the box mag system to fire. It had its own FET in it, and the 63 mags that it had were super reliable. Bulgear has something similar where they have a button that you can press to rewind. Unfortunately, though, when you get it to feed directly off the gun, I don't know why they wired it this way. You can't get it to feed basically beforehand. I really wish it could, because in that way you just, it just makes it easier. Maybe future companies will do that down the road. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But yeah, I mean, if you're a tech savvy guy, man, and you're getting into machine guns, like, fix the box mags, get them to feed off the gun, and you'll have a much better time with it. It'll function
Yeah, I've
much more
noticed
efficiently.
that with the A&K that I have is basically like the first issues that everyone like that I notice everyone's gonna get is the box mag issue because of the
Yeah,
fact that it's just shit.
yeah,
I've
they're
seen
cheap.
people just use the Stanag like what do you call it? It's just the high cap ones and
Oh,
just
the mags.
yeah
Yeah.
the mags
Oh
and
my
just shove it in
god.
there because it's much more reliable than the box
Oh,
mag.
it's crazy because you can get away with that too in airsoft,
I
whereas in
know,
the real
right?
world, they suck. But
Yeah.
with that being said, like, yeah, I mean, I set up the electrical housing on the original 249 I built for my buddy and I, and it's ready to go basically, and it makes it easier too, because then all you do when you're reloading is you plug your box in and you're good to feed. And then with Bull Gear these days making arguably the best and most reliable feed system I've ever seen for a box. And it's so simple, which is great. It gives you a much larger BB capacity. You would be foolhardy not to buy one of their products to put on it. It just makes your life a lot easier.
So you got another you got another tech to specialize on just machine guns alone and just the box mag alone. Jeez.
Well,
Yeah,
technically, yeah, it gets complicated, but like if you have an understanding of RC motors and stuff like that, or even just basic airsoft motors, because all
super
it is
simple.
just it's their pinion gear is a plastic pinion gear. Like
Yeah.
you can buy upgraded motors for them and whatnot, and
Ah.
yeah, most of the problems do come with the box mag, just because of the cheap,
Yeah,
tiny electronics, and like Schoolboy was saying too, the way some of the box mags are shaped and stuff like that, they don't promote proper care or durability of the box mag. Like
Now,
for
are there?
example,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I would just for example the 1500 round nutsack that people like to use
Uh,
is a more reliable mag,
the
but the
soft
problem is
mags,
that yeah
Hmm.
the soft box
And
yeah,
rounds.
that's
Yeah.
sex. Yeah.
but the problem is that the wiring, because it's
Yeah.
smaller, the wiring inside is actually free
Oh my
floating, so the
gosh. Yeah.
BBs are actually
Yep.
on top of the wire, so you can tell where
Yeah.
that, and that's where
I
I had a
noticed because
problem
I
with.
have one as well. It's really
Yeah.
annoying. Like to go
Yeah,
from the
so
200 round to the 100 round, and you're like, well, there's no good box mag. Is
pretty
there
much.
a already pre-upgraded good box mag that you guys would recommend?
Yep.
Honestly, pretty much what Schoolboy was saying with just the Bulgare
Bull
one.
Gear.
Without having to build it. Like
Yeah, Bull Gear
Yeah,
makes them.
yeah,
They make them.
as well as Classic Army does sell a box mag that's spring fed, which is another
What?
option that people can get. Yeah, you can order it directly off of their website.
Oh, that's wild. Is
Um,
it one of those pull springs, kind of like the
no,
Lonex mags where you wind it up?
no, same thing. It's positively fed. So
really,
Oh, okay.
I know a
how
Huh.
many rounds
guy
though?
on I believe the same. There's a guy at the field that actually, I think he ordered two of them, and he's been rocking that in his
Nice.
Like a 200
machine
rounder
gun.
or?
No, it's like 2,500 rounds or
Oh,
something,
what?
or like 1,500 rounds or
Oh,
something.
so
Yeah.
it's just a spring. Okay, so it's just a like a
It's like
rotating feeder,
it's probably like a heavy duty spring inside and just a plastic
and that's
plate
more
that just
reliable
pushes
than
it.
a
Yeah.
mechanical, like not mechanical,
Yeah,
Yeah.
a motor
The
system.
motor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it again though, like, pros and cons, right? The spring systems, super simple and everything like that, and I love the idea of it. But if the capacity is only like 2,500 rounds for a spring system, and it's no different than an electric system, it's I would say, like, make more box mag space, because at this point you can buy Bull Gear internals and put it in, and the Bull Gear internals give you
I
about a
think it's like
30 to
5 bucks.
40% volume. So I mean,
Yeah,
if you guys have
it's
all
like
seen my Mark 48 nutsacks,
Yep.
those things, so the little ones that I just modified, basically, they hold 8,000 rounds,
Oh
and then
God.
the full size one holds 10 to 12,000 rounds, depending on how much I want to cram in there, and it feeds all of them too. But the thing is with Bull Gear stuff is extraordinarily simple in terms of design. and they give you replacement FETs if their wiring board basically breaks, which is, I mean, the price is a bit steep for them, but if you want a reliable system, I would argue go with the Bull Gear first, because you get the bang for your buck out of it, and it's dumb how well it works. And they just came out with an RPD mag insert, and I'm like, okay, great, there goes another $200.
Oh my god.
And so regarding the gearbox itself, I forgot to mention as
Yeah.
well, because this is a full auto system, so there is no semi-fire unless you get one of those super cool, fancy schmancy programmable MOSFETs. But I'm gonna hate to break it to you guys. The only MOSFETs that work for this one are probably inline MOSFETs, because you do not
Yeah.
have the space for a trigger MOSFET. They use
Yeah.
a completely different system for their trigger mechanism. In my
Yeah,
opinion,
they use
it's a good trigger system. It's very simple to use. Like, my opinion on the 249 platform is that it looks intimidating, but when you actually take it all apart, it's one of the simplest platforms to work on and to even just observe and sort of understand.
Yeah, which is great too if you're gonna, I guess, get into MG stuff. The 249 is the easiest to go. Even the PKMs, because it uses a similar gearbox pattern, and the M60s from A&K. They all kind of, it's funny. They all kind of share, pardon me, the same shell theory idea. So they don't really change much. The only ones that I've seen that are different so far are the RPD, the Stoner 63s by GMP, which uses V2s. So if you're comfortable with V2s, you're good to go. And then if I want to go into the really shitty machine guns, like you want to talk about Ares, they're very different to the point where it's proprietary. Don't buy those.
I see. That's why you hate it.
Well,
Yeah,
and
if
it's a good platform to learn on in the aspect of like
teching.
yeah, just in teching,
Yeah.
it's really easy because the spring is a quick chain spring system, and because the gears are exposed on the bottom side of the gearbox,
Yeah, you can see
similar
your
to
work.
similar to the benefits you get with the split gearbox system, similar to
Yeah.
the retro arms and ICS. You can actually see and shine a flashlight for some of the guys who like doing it that way. The
I will
gaps on the gear
I
system.
will add a little bit of a tip for that too. I almost forgot that. With the 249 gearboxes and the open shell on the bottom, do yourself a favor and take a little bit of electrical tape and cover them up afterwards to keep the system contained as much as possible when you put it back into the shell. If you're anything, if you guys are out there who are getting into MGs, if you're anything like me and you're rough and tumble with your stuff, try to do that. It'll keep a lot of the soot from getting into the gearbox. I know it sounds ridiculous, but because the 249 is such an open system, especially in terms of the build and how it disassembles, with the trigger mech dropping out, the amount of dust or dirt that gets up in there is crazy. And it'll go directly into your gearbox. So just cover it up as much as possible if you can. And it'll kind of seal the system a little bit more, and you'll have less issues with dirt and grime basically getting in there. It just helps with the longevity factor too. I mean, I really wish they had like a slide plate, kind of like AKs, that you could just slide over top of it to cover it afterwards, which would be great.
That would be
But
cool, or like a
doesn't
plastic
exist.
piece similar to the V3
Yeah.
system. What another thing too for some of the guys out there listening, I was trying to get into this earlier there and I forgot about it, but because this is a full auto platform, some of the first like quick tech things that I would do on this platform is adjust its AOE right off the bat. Because it's going to be a full auto system and running, you're gonna be pretty much wanting good AOE, and this is you pretty much, it's the one reason why you're gonna chew through pistons on this platform,
Yeah,
because
you
it has
actually have to do it
more
for the
AOE.
249s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of the few platforms that actually needs it done for it to increase the longevity of its
yeah, the 249s have a notorious. They're notorious for shitty AOEs. If you get the classic army 249s, you can actually physically see it right away. You go, oh, that doesn't look right, because the engagement point is almost at the third tooth, which is crazy. The ANKs are a little bit better. Their newer ones that they came out with actually have, I don't know what they did with their gears and their piston, but it actually has a better alignment. And then for your motor types, use a D type if you're gonna change the pinion, because it needs to engage the gears, because the gears are sitting in line. They're not sitting in the standard sort of like what would you call it, the vertical sort of staircase.
Yeah.
which they normally sit at, which actually allows them to line up better. But because machine guns are kind of flat in airsoft and they're laid down flat with the gears, the train doesn't engage in the same sort of tone. That's why they chew through pistons like crazy. And then put a steel tooth piston on the bottom. It'll help a little bit too. Don't use the polycarbons. And if you have good gears, they'll hold up for quite a bit.
And another thing too, before people go in and start spending money on upgrade parts, it is definitely wise to take measurements. One of the problems
Oh
I've
yeah.
come up with a lot with the M249 specifically is not able to fit all kinds of motors.
Yeah, use a version 3 motor.
Well, so then, yeah, they do use a short type motor, but what I'm getting at is that certain brands do not fit in the
Yeah.
gearbox. You would think that it's not the case, but you actually have very, very little space for adjustment when it comes to motor height or motor, spacing in a 249. And I have found, because recently I was trying to upgrade mine with, I was trying to put a 35K ICS motor inside it,
Yeah.
and the ICS motor is too tall. The even with trying to press the pinion gear farther down the tower of the shaft of the motor, there's still none of the room. The motor itself is actually too big. So even though it is a short type motor, it won't work with the setup I have. No matter how many times I tried to shim it, wasn't going to work. So the only DIY mod that I can think of doing without, getting all, well, it is going to get all crazy, is to just cut the shaft down a little bit more and bring it down a little bit. But that's a bunch of modifications that your average person should not need to do. But it's
No.
just one thing I'm telling people to watch out for. So before you go and buy like a, super expensive Tinley motor or whatever it is that people want to spend their money on, that maybe get a measurement and figure out if you can actually fit it in there. Because worst case scenario is you don't get a refund, and that's no good.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Other things too. Yeah, like Schoolboy was saying, flat hop is a really good, easy modification, really cheap to do. R hop is another modification that you can do to really give yourself that boost of performance, especially when you want to play at events and whatnot. Just because the AOs are very, very big. Other things I can suggest are kit wise, like if you're gonna be playing, MG sort of a platform, you're not gonna have the same kit requirements or kit suggestions that we've been giving in previous episodes. Like you are going to be playing this part. If you're going to be playing this platform, you are going to be playing the part. You're going to want to have either a day pack on you or extra dump pouch or something like that. But you're going to want, the ability to carry extra ammunition on you. You're going to want to have the ability to have extra batteries on you just in case something craps out. And in some cases, you want an extra box mag because, like we were saying, the internals are crap.
Definitely. Oh man, I carry an average of 3 box mags on me. And then I've been able to get away with 1 with the bull gear internals just because of how reliable they are. But if you can, like, carry up to 3. And I mean, if you're gonna be an MG dude, yeah, dude, go balls to the wall, carry more if you can. Especially if you don't have ammunition capacity at a sim or something you're playing, and it's like carry what you can. Yeah, load up, because the more ammunition you can bring to the table, so long as it's in the limits, awesome. Yeah, it enhances your ability that much more.
And make sure you have good friends that can crew serve with you.
Yeah, or you can be dude, you just hump it all yourself.
Yeah, like I said, Aces and 8 had a M2 Modus, literally, which I think was a Polar Star system on it. So the tripod, the shield, and the actual gun itself. And
So
it's awesome.
Okay. Do you think more people should design something like that? Like
like building
building?
their own HMGs.
Yeah, because obviously, we have a very limited number, right, of options, and the options that we do have available, like you guys had said earlier, they're not in stock. Or if they are in stock, they're actually, 1.5 times more than they would be normally. or
I'm
you can't even get them into the country, or
I mean,
some crazy reason like
my
that.
take is if you're working with the HMG, which is the heavier variants, like a Cord or an M2, or if you're ever gonna do like a Browning, like a 30 cal, right, or a 50 cal, like you have so much room in there, you could literally just chop down a regular like Polar Star or airsoft gun and just shove a system in there, and then the barrels, the entire unit or the housing basically hides everything.
Mm.
And
Yeah, so
it's if you're
yeah,
gonna go that route, then go Polar Star,
yeah,
because it'll even make it so that you
easier.
can fit everything in there.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing that stuff, but I'd also like err on the side of caution too, and look into your country's laws in regards to that type of thing, because it almost borders on manufacturing of arms in some cases.
Yeah.
So like just it sounds silly, I know, to most airsofters out there, because you're making something to play airsoft with, but at the same time,
Innocent intentions. May
Yeah.
yeah,
But
innocent
exactly.
outcomes.
yeah, because right
Yeah.
now Bill 4 does ban this now, which is the photo I sent there, which is basically vehicle mounted machine guns now. So you
Yeah,
can't
Actually,
fire
has
you
stems
can't
on
fire
which.
on that. So we used to have in
Yeah.
Panther, there was a Toyota Helix that had I think Aces and Eights had a Toyota Helix that had a mounted M2 on it with the shield
Right.
and everything, and then we use it for the games. This was like back in 2017. And
Mhm.
yeah, it was still allowed. We allowed it in the game,
So,
and yeah, it was a mobile like shooting platform at that point, 50
you know
cal.
what the
Yeah.
workaround is, boys?
What?
Put it on the ass of a horse.
Metal Gear Solid.
Just saying, boys. They said it can't be a vehicle. Well, this is my
Where's
horse. sir.
Tiana? Come on, bring your horse in.
Yeah. I I think it's cool when dudes build that kind of stuff too, but you really got to have a dedicated system
Yeah.
for to like I like to pardon me to touch on it, like if you're looking at real world sort of examples and everything, when you're talking about anything that goes from like GPMGs up to heavy machine guns,
Yeah.
it needs to be mounted indefinitely. What I would be more interested in seeing is dudes potentially making or bringing out tripods and then trying the idea of a machine gun emplacement,
Heck yeah.
and then basically setting up a fortification around it and having a mounted system on a pin swivel so you can move it on a pintle mount and kind of engage targets from that. It's a very lightweight pardon me, very lightweight system when you have it on the ground and you have everything set up, because then you're not manipulating the machine gun as much,
So
and
what
it's
you're
secured.
saying, you're saying is you want G&G to make the Lafayette tripod system that they have for the MG42 and MG34, and have
Sure.
that deployable so that you could have accurate fire, no recoil, and literally like you could adjust elevation, windage.
What?
So what you're saying is make the HPA platform even more
Oh
overpowered.
my
than it
god!
already is.
Imagine
Well,
imagine
think
you're
about how
grouping
much.
so tight.
Well, keep in mind too, the amount of effort that someone will have to put in to get that system set up in the first place. That takes a considerable amount of resources. And in airsoft, it's finite when you're looking at that type of thing. When you're even with the same concept, if you're going to employ an airsoft mortar, you need more than one
Yeah.
dude to be able to do it, and it takes a considerable amount of effort. I would like to see that, especially for like in the near future, if we have sims and we have places where either A, we can entrench ourselves and dig in, i.e. fill sandbags and set up positions.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, you want fixed MG positions like that, because it makes it crew servable to the point where if buddy gets taken out, drag buddy off, other dude goes on, get the gun up.
Yeah.
That type of
So-
deal.
That is the priority.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that we need to build MG placements, but not have the MGs there around Panther. And
Well,
have
I mean, if we had, well, I'm just saying, and I'm going to propose this. If Elliot's okay with us basically putting small, basically like pintle hole style mounts, just implanting them in the ground somewhere basically, and actually getting them fixed in, and then people will create, or either that, or we come up with an adapter, kind of like a universal one that just straps onto a machine gun in some way or another, and people have the ability to come up with their MGs and literally just put it in, shove a pin through, and then they can use the swivel mount essentially and a mounted position, you could start making fixed emplacements like pillboxes and things like that a little bit more feasible. And then you give people a purpose to kind of go buy a machine gun and implement it in a certain way, because the amount of firepower you can get out of that, especially if you're not shouldering it the whole time and you put it on something to take the weight. Oh my God, all you're doing is swiveling and shooting, which is crazy, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
It's a suggestion.
HMGs are great. There's, I guess we'll start talking about the future of MGs and airsoft. Yeah, they need more HMG variants. Honestly, there's not a lot of them. Like a standard M2 would be nice.
Yeah,
That you
yeah.
could buy, right? Even
I-
if it's like $2,000.
Well, I think they did have an M2 available, but I think it was either 1,700 or 2,700 bucks off of eBay, and it came with the tripod on it. But
Yeah.
I again, I can't remember, but from just a tech perspective, they put too much of the money into the R&D of, I guess, just the external part of it.
Yeah.
They're
Not the
always
internal.
so trash with the
Yeah.
internal.
So
Well, I'm not
I'll
gonna-
show
I'm
you
not gonna
here.
lie.
It is literally 3,300 US.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. You're talking about the M1919?
No, this is the M2 Browning 50 cal.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would be happy to buy an M1919 for airsoft. I think one of the EMG ones. I think in the US they're only like $900 or something, which is very affordable.
Yeah,
And
900
basically
EMG. Yep.
Yeah, and then essentially I think with the pintle mount and everything, like get all of that together and then soup that up, and then have it to a point where you could go to the field basically. And I know this sounds crazy, but I would love to do that point essentially where I'd have this and be like, hey, does somebody want to team up with me and be the gun team?
I would crew serve with you, dude. I'd just carry that tripod for you.
Oh, dude, 100%. And then just set up the system and then just go to town, right?
Hell yeah.
Because I mean, it sounds silly, but a lot of people think it's funny. But when you have in place machine guns, it's pretty impressive what you can do with it.
Yeah, it's just that they're very hard to. From what I know, they're hard to import here. Because
My
Oh, of course
God,
they are.
that M2 weighs
Yeah.
61 pounds. Jesus.
Oh, dude, that's accurate.
that's pretty light
Yeah.
considering.
I'm just saying, like, damn, bro.
Yep. Yeah, I would honestly, I would like to see more fixed emplacements like this, like HMG, MMG at the field.
Yeah.
Because it would make it so much fun when when it's an attack and defend, you actually have the machine gunners at a defensive position with HMGs and MMGs just like kind of just like laying hate on like arcs of fires that they have. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then basically you make it so when the dude gets shot, he gets hit, but the machine gun stays.
Yeah.
And then Buddy can get on it and use it. It's one of those things that, I mean, I think it's funny sometimes because you get airsofters who carry machine guns, but it's like, hey man, like nobody says that if you die, you can't drop your machine gun and someone else could, in theory, pick it up and go play.
Yeah.
But you really got to know what you're doing with it.
Wow. We need more of these.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
We do.
we really do.
And well, let's think about it. Backpack fed systems. I
Oh,
know we've
no.
seen. I know we've seen it. Future Soldier on the gimbal. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Like, should we have that in airsoft? Should we see that in airsoft? And should it be paired up with a DevTac Ronin helmet? Let's go.
Yeah, no. No.
They have to get the one where it's what is it, the PKM version, this one.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the only reason I don't think that would really work out in the long run is because we don't have Link in airsoft. So
No.
unless you want a BB hose and an electrical tube or an HPA
I
tube,
mean, wouldn't that make
feeding
more
all the way
sense,
from the front?
honestly? Wouldn't that make
it would-
sense if
sure,
you just
I mean, it
use your
would in a
battery
way.
and as well as your BB link
Yeah.
tube all the way to the
I
gun?
mean, you could carry a car battery for all you care and run the system. But I mean,
if we're going for
it's a cool-
immersion, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a sweet idea in the sense, but I don't see it being implemented well because the other issue, which comes with the real one too, which is why the backpack system isn't a universally used system. The moment you have to either leave the gun or put the gun down, you have to take the backpack off or disconnect the system.
True.
And then you have an ineffective gun at that point. Because unless you're going to feed rounds out, basically from the link to have rounds on it, or switch to a box mag or some contained system, you're essentially putting the system out of action. And it's kind of why like I don't run HPA for MGs, because
Yeah.
if I have to put it down, I put it down and then the system is out of play.
So
Whereas
if we
battery
do
operated,
this,
you can put it down
so
and
if we
pick
do
it
this
up and go.
for an HPA system, it would make sense because you need to link
Yeah.
it with the hose.
You
No, I get it.
just hide the hose in the belt.
Yeah, hide the hose in the link tube there.
Yeah. I mean, you could totally do it. I don't see any reason why somebody hasn't attempted that, or maybe someone has and done it for
I
has done
haven't
it
seen it.
effectively.
I haven't seen it at all,
But
honestly.
I just at the same. Here's the other problem. Okay, what happens if you get an issue with the box mag in your backpack jamming? Do you have boxes on you to change out quickly, and can you do it effectively?
In
because it's
Airsoft,
all-
you just have a Stanag mag.
Yeah.
Just hit the EPM 2.
That's
EPM 1.
yeah, but that's assuming you're running a 249. If the
Yeah.
dude's running like, let's say, a PKM or something different that doesn't use magazines to feed off of, essentially, you're kind of hooped at that point. And you
Yeah.
either have to slap a box mag in and hope to God it works, or you're down, essentially. I mean, I think it's a cool idea. It has definitely crossed my mind, but in terms of execution, I'm just like, no. I think it's, if I'm being honest, I think it's pointless for Airsoft, because the BB capacity you can have in a box magazine is well over the exceeded capacity that you can carry in a real one. So what's the point, right? You can have a lighter system.
Yeah, but it looks
You
cool.
can still move around with it. Yeah, that's fair. I guess so. The immersions, right?
All right, we know what you're making. Let's go. That'll be your HPA setup.
Oh
Well,
God, no.
All right, guys. We've gone through our list of things for this episode. I would like to thank our favorite listeners in the audience here for sticking through and listening in. Do
Thanks,
we have
Riot.
any closing? Yeah, thanks, Riot, and UKJU there. Are there any closing remarks from any of you guys? Do you guys have any sort of summary comments to make before we wrap up here?
Mac, you probably want to say something because
Something about no
Yeah.
steppy my snake, don't bring LMGs to my field.
No, it's because we've been talking tech stuff for a while, and he's probably been like,
He's probably committed.
No, dude, we put him to sleep.
yeah,
Yeah.
we probably did. That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
You're on mute, Mac, by the way, if you're trying to talk. Yeah. Deep dive into machine gun platform. Jeez.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah,
not
no,
realize it
we-
was gonna take this long, but damn.
Well, it was definitely a deep dive. We covered our quite a few of the bases. Obviously, we don't want to keep this going
Yeah.
any longer
Yeah.
today just because of the time, and we don't want to kill you guys as since we already probably have killed you guys now. But
Yeah, but
if
thank you
there's,
very much, Schoolboy, for
Yeah.
jumping
Yeah, it's
into
a
this
pleasure.
topic, because
Yeah.
I know this is one of your favorite platforms. It's not really my favorite platform, but I mean, I do enjoy it in implementations of having it in a squad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then for TAC, I'm guessing it's the technical talk of it. So
Well, I like the platform in itself, right? I would love to see these used a lot more and whatnot. And again, just from my advocacy point of view, it's expensive, but if someone's into trying out a project and testing out their skills and whatnot, the LMG or the machine gun platform is definitely a good platform to get
Yeah.
into.
all right.
So with
So
that, guys,
let me
yeah,
let me close it off with this, with my comment here, my quote here. Accuracy is overrated. You might not know where the enemy is, but with enough firepower, you can always keep their heads down.
all right.
That is the
Well-
very definition of what a machine gun is. All right, close it off. TAC.
All right. Well, there you guys. You heard it right there. If you guys have any questions or comments that you guys want us to cover further in the next episodes in the future, please just give us a little shout out or a little comment.
And
For everyone listening on YouTube, just please hit that like, subscribe button and that bell notification. Really helps us out and really
And
helps the channel
make sure
grow.
you join up in the Discord because we are trying to do this sort of live segment in our Discord so that we could get you guys involved with making these things.
Yeah,
Right
exactly.
away.
We really enjoy the live audience and your guys' feedback. But with that, guys, we've enjoyed you guys. We hope you guys have enjoyed us. This has been episode 51, a deep dive into the machine gun platform with your guest Schoolboy, myself, Poi, and our boy Mac in the background there.
He's asleep, don't worry.
All right, guys. Thanks again, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you
Bye-bye.
guys later.
Noodles.